Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet.
Gunsmoke. The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Well, we'll start off your week with some crime, and we're going to have crime and drama today and tomorrow here on Classic Radio Theater. Staats Cotsworth as Casey crime photographer, Gerald Mohr in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, an episode of Calling All Cars going back almost 90 years, an episode of The Whistler, and then Gangbusters, and Bob Reddick as yours truly, Johnny Dollar. And thank you for joining us on this Monday. This is the 5th day of February, 36th day of the year, 329 days remaining. South Carolina became the first state to ratify the Articles of Confederation in 1778. Phoenix, Arizona incorporated on this date in 1881. Congress passed a law over President Woodrow Wilson's veto, banning most Asian immigration to the U.S. In 1919, Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith launched United Artists. In 1922, DeWitt and Lila Wallace published the first issue of the Reader's Digest. In 1936, Charlie Chaplin released the last movie of the silent film era, Modern Times. In 1937, President Roosevelt proposed a plan to enlarge the Supreme Court of the United States. In 1945, General MacArthur returned to Manila. In 1958, a hydrogen bomb known as the Tybee bomb, lost by the Air Force off the coast of Savannah, Georgia, never recovered. In 1971, Alan Shepard, Edgar Mitchell aboard the lunar module Antares landed on the moon.
Not bad for an old man.
Okay, you're right. Alan's on the surface, and it's been a long way, but we're here.
Apollo 14, the third mission to land on the moon and the first to land in the lunar highlands. 1974, John Murtha became the first Vietnam War veteran elected to Congress. In 1988, Manuel Noriega indicted on drug smuggling and money laundering charges. In 1994, Byron Della Beckwith convicted of the 1963 murder of civil rights leader Medgar Evers. Now, let me make this clear. That was in 1994. It took that long a time for Della Beckwith to be brought to justice. 1997, a civil jury in Santa Monica, California, found O.J. Simpson liable for the wrongful death of Ronald Goldman, battery against Goldman, and battery against Nicole Brown.
She is holding up the sign for question number 1. Do you find by a preponderance of the evidence, yes, O.J. Simpson is responsible for the death of Ron Goldman? The question number 1 is, do you find by a preponderance of the evidence the defendant Simpson willfully and wrongfully caused the death of Ronald Goldman? The answer is yes. The jury has found O.J. Simpson responsible for killing Ronald Goldman on June 12th, 1994.
Our family is grateful for a verdict of responsibility, which is all we ever wanted. And we have it. Thank God.
The father of Ronald Goldman, Fred Goldman. Now, Simpson ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages, but California law protects pensions from being used to satisfy judgments. So Simpson able to continue much of his lifestyle based on his pensions from the National Football League. In 2003, Colin Powell addressed the UN Security Council on U.S. plans to invade Iraq.
Clearly, Saddam Hussein and his regime will stop at nothing until something stops him.
And the U.S. ended up doing that, didn't they? In 2008, a major tornado outbreak across the southern U.S. killed 57 people. And it was 4 years ago today, President Trump acquitted by the Senate in his impeachment trial. Among those passing away on this date in history, actor Dean Jagger, writer Joseph L. Mankiewicz, actor Doug McClure, Tom Willis in The Jeffersons, Franklin Cover passing away on this date, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the founder of Transcendental Meditation, also the fine musician Al DeLore, actor Kirk Douglas passing away on this date, as did actor Christopher Plummer, all passing away on this date in history. Among those born on this date who are no longer with us, politician Adlai Stevenson, actor Red Buttons, and baseball's Hank Aaron.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
Those of you who had an Atari video game growing up, the founder of Atari, Nolan Bushnell, turns 81 years old today. Race car driver Darrell Waltrip, 77 today. From This Is Spinal Tap, Christopher Guest is 76. Also actress Barbara Hershey, a lovely lady, 76 years old. Actress Jennifer Jason Leigh is 62. From Love Actually, Laura Linney is 60. R&B singer Bobby Brown, 55. Country singer Sarah Evans is 53. And from Glee and American Crime Story, Darren Criss is 37. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 5th day of February as their birthday. And if this happens to be your birthday,
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
You know, one of the things we do here is I try to get 2 weeks in advance, try to be up. Well, I haven't quite caught up to 2 weeks in advance yet, but I have to tell you that I'm several days ahead. Well, of course, as you probably know, the week of January, I think it was January 23rd, Melanie, the lady who sang Brand New Key, passed away. And her birthday was this past Saturday. So I had to do some quick running around and editing shows so that we could make sure we didn't identify her as having a new birthday, when in fact she was no longer on this mortal coil. But it was another sad event, and we wish her family all the best, her youngsters who posted the information about her passing. Okay, crime this hour. We're going to start off with an episode of Casey Crime Photographer from 76 years ago, February 5th, 1948, Music to Die By. That's next on this Monday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Hear Santa's sleigh bells tinkling sound while carol singers gather round. Swirling snowflakes fluff the ground. What a perfect Christmas! Like Old Man Winter's cherry nose, each tiny face just beams and glows. Tucked in bed with snuggly toes. What a perfect Christmas! Here's a cute fat doll, a bright red bike. You'll get what you asked for, maybe. Here's a robe for Dad, I hope he'll like, and mittens for the baby. These other gifts beneath our tree were mailed in time and properly. The zip code plainly marked to see. Oh, what a perfect, what a perfect, what a perfect Christmas.
Remember when zip code was brand new? Yeah. Let's go back 76 years on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox to February 5th, 1948, an episode of Casey Crime Photographer, Staats Cotsworth starring as Casey in Music to Die By.
The Anchor Hawking Glass Corporation brings you Crime Photographer.
Hiya, Casey.
Hi.
Look, here comes Tony.
Hiya, Tony.
Hiya, Casey.
You're going to give us that famous line of yours?
Well, I'm here to tell you that tomorrow begins a week dedicated to one of America's most famous institutions, the Boy Scouts of America.
They deserve our full support. Right, Ethelbert. And since you've done your good deed for the day, Tony, suppose you proceed.
All right, Casey, I will. Anchor Hocking is the most famous name in glass. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tony Marvin. Every week at this time, the Anchor Hocking Glass Corporation of Lancaster, Ohio, and its more than 10,000 employees bring you another adventure of Casey, crime photographer, ace cameraman who covers the crime news of a great city. Written by Alonzo Dean Cole, our adventure for tonight, Music to Die By. 9:30 in the evening. In the cheaply furnished living room of a small, cheap apartment, a woman, rather pretty in a drab way, is darning socks. Her husband holds a magazine that he obviously isn't reading. In an apartment above, a radio is loudly tuned in on a dance band. And finally, the woman turns.
That music bother you, dear?
Huh?
Betty Welch is home.
Yeah?
We always know when we hear that radio upstairs.
I hadn't noticed.
No? You haven't read a word in that magazine since you turned it on.
I'm thinking.
Well, why don't you go to bed since you've got a tough day tomorrow?
I ain't sleepy. Why don't you hit the hay? You've got to get up early for your job.
Oh, I wouldn't get any rest with that radio going over my head.
I'll go upstairs and ask Miss Welch to tune it down.
Oh, what's the use, Howard? She wouldn't do it. And according to Lisa's here, she's entitled to play it until 10 o'clock, and it's only a little after 8:30.
That's so.
Very good-looking gal, Miss Welch.
Yeah, not bad.
She's caused a lot of jealousy in this building.
So you told me.
Well, all husbands aren't like you, Howard. Some of them around here have been giving that blonde upstairs quite a play.
You hear that stuff from Mrs. Bloomington. That old dame across the hall does nothing but gossip.
Mrs. Bloomington isn't the only one.
Yeah. Look, Ada, I'm pretty restless. I won't be able to sleep unless I get a walk and maybe a couple of beers. I think I'll walk down to Eddie's Tavern and back.
Okay, but before you go, Howard, call up the super and tell him to fix that radiator.
Radiator?
The one in the kitchen.
The super won't fix radiators. Now it's too late.
He will if you ask him. You can get most anything out of John. Call him on the house phone now.
Okay.
I'll go across the hall and get Mrs. Bloomington to stay with me while you're out and the super's here.
What do you want to do that for?
I have a sense of the proprieties, Howard.
Proprieties? Nuts. Hello, super. Hiya, John. This is Howard Clinton, apartment 4B. John, the radiator in the kitchen doesn't work. Can you come up and fix it? Well, I know it's late, John, but be a pal, huh? Yeah. Swell. Thanks a million, fella. Long.
Good evening, Mr. Clinton.
Hi, Miss Bloomington.
Did you get the super, Howard?
Yeah, you'll be right up.
I knew he'd do it for you.
I'll stay here with your wife, Mr. Clinton, so you needn't worry.
Thanks, Miss Bloomington. Somebody might kidnap her if she was alone.
They might. She's very pretty.
You see, I have one admirer, Howard.
Yeah. I'll get my hat and coat.
Don't close your door when you go out. I'm leaving mine across the hall, open, of course. So if my poor husband needs me, he can call, and I'll be sure to hear him.
How is your husband, Miss Bloomington?
Oh, just the same. He'll never be anything but an invalid tied to his bed. That music above distresses him so. But we can't demand that Betty Welch woman turn it off before 10 o'clock, I suppose.
No. Ada, I'll just have a few beers and come right home.
Don't hurry.
See you later, Miss Bloomington. So long.
So long, Mr. Clinton. Don't close the door.
Oh, sure. I won't be long.
Ada, dear, I don't know how you can stand the horrible radio of that horrible woman, Betty Welch, right over your apartment.
Just a minute. Oh, you did manage to get away, Howard.
Yeah. Hello, Betty.
Hello.
You're alone, I see.
Huh, did you expect to find me with a place full of company? You're the most jealous fellow I ever met.
It's because I'm so crazy about you.
Take off your overcoat.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Have any trouble getting away?
I had to go all the way downstairs and then come up the back way tonight. Oh, Mrs. Bloomington's with Ada, so of course both doors are open.
You sure nobody saw you?
Sure. Hey, what guy's been up here with you?
Guy?
Look at this ashtray. You don't smoke cigars, do you?
Look, a fella and his girlfriend came home with me last night, and I forgot to empty the ashtray they used. That's all.
Fellow with his girlfriend, huh?
Sure. Come on, I got music on for dancing. How about it?
Let's go.
Hey, I want to dance, not have the wind squeezed out of me.
When I get you in my arms, Betty, I don't care what...
Cut it. Behave yourself.
Okay.
That's better. Nice, ain't it?
So nice I never want to let you go. I never want another guy to hold you close like this.
Stick to your dancing, big boy.
Yeah. Who was the mug who left them cigar butts here?
A very nice fella. I like him.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I can marry him if I want to.
You can, huh?
Mm-hmm. He's a good dancer, too, like you.
Miss Welch, open your door. Miss Welch, this is John the Super. It's after 10 o'clock and everybody in the house is complaining about your radio.
The woman doesn't even answer him, Ada.
She's probably gone out, Mrs. Bloomington. Forgot to turn the fan on.
Miss Welch!
You're just wasting your breath, John. Use your pass key and open that door.
Yeah, I guess I got it, Mrs. Bloomington.
Well, if you don't, nobody will ever get any sleep.
Yeah, I go in and turn that thing off, Mrs. Clinton, right now. I tell her... Holy...
What is it?
What's the matter?
Look!
Oh, that girl!
And my husband.
There's a pistol beside them.
Come away. I called the police. I think the two of them are dead.
When we homicide guys got here, Miss Williams, that radio was still blasting away.
And what did you find, Captain Logan?
Well, the girl, Betty Welch, had been shot at close range through the forehead. She died instantly. The guy, as so often happens in these murder and suicide ideas, didn't aim so good at himself. He only creased the side of his skull.
He's alive then, Logan?
He's hardly hurt, Casey. He just knocked himself out for a while.
Have you questioned him yet?
Oh, plenty. And he's talked plenty.
He admits he killed the gal and then tried to bump himself off?
No, he denies that. But he admits he was crazy about the girl and very jealous of her. And also, the murder gun's been identified as his, and the old dermal nitrate test shows that he fired a gun sometime today.
Well, everything's over for him then, except the hot seat.
Uh-huh. I wish all the cases I get were as easy to crack.
Yeah, well, where is the guy? I want some pictures of him.
He was taken down to headquarters just before you got here. But the murder gun's on that table. You probably want a shot of that.
Oh, yeah. German Luger, huh?
Yeah. This Howard Clinton brought it back from the war as a souvenir. He's an ex-GI.
Ex-GI, huh? Give me some more dope about him for my story, Captain. What do you do for a living?
Why, he's a foreman at the big Adolphi greenhouses, a nurseryman and plant specialist.
Hey, was he on the job today, Logan?
Yeah?
Captain Logan, tell me...
Excuse me a minute, Annie.
Yeah.
Well, since he denies the killing, Logan, how does he explain it?
He doesn't. He says something hit him and he blacked out, which isn't a very good story.
Your fingerprint guys went over his gun first thing.
Naturally. The gun was clean.
It's a little unusual for a guy to attempt suicide and then clean the fingerprints off his gun.
It would be most unusual if we hadn't found an initialed handkerchief belonging to Clinton on the floor near the gun. For some reason, maybe he didn't intend to commit suicide at first, He had that Luger wrapped in a handkerchief when he used it, and the handkerchief showed a positive in the nitrate test.
Yeah, well, Logan, he worked in a greenhouse where he handles fertilizers that show the same reaction in a dermal nitrate test that gunpowder does. You have no proof that Clinton did this killing?
Look, I figured that fertilizer angle, Casey. Now, listen, amateur. It's Clinton all the way, because nobody could have gotten out of this apartment after the killing.
No?
No. This is the only apartment on the top floor here, and there's no outside fire escape. And nobody could have gone downstairs after Clinton came to Betty Welch's apartment without being seen.
Why?
Because Clinton's wife in the apartment below had her door wide open. She and another woman, Mrs. Bloomington, sat facing the front stairs, and they're positive nobody came down.
How about the back stairs?
Now, Mrs. Bloomington's husband's an invalid. His door was wide open, and he had a full view of the back stairs from his bed. He saw Clinton sneaking up them, but he saw nobody coming down.
Huh? I guess that settles that, Casey.
Well, witnesses aren't always reliable, Annie.
I'll give you 10 to 1 that the Bloomingtons are reliable.
When you talk that kind of odds, my pockets are lined with fish hooks.
Yeah.
Just the same, I want to meet the Bloomingtons.
Yeah, you'll find them downstairs. Go ahead. Get acquainted.
Take care of them customers down the bar, Walter. Excuse me, Miss Williams. You were saying about that Mr. and Mrs. Bloomington?
Oh, that, to Casey's discomfort, Ethelbert.
Yeah?
They proved unimpeachable witnesses.
Go right ahead, Annie. Rub it in.
I'm going to. Mrs. Bloomington and her husband are terribly respectable, law-abiding people. And the last thing they'd do would be to lie about anything connected with a murder.
I sized them up as okay.
This Howard Clinton's goose is cooked then, huh?
Yeah, but Miss Williams and I have been talking to him down at headquarters, Ethelbert. He's a big, strong-looking bozo who talks straight. I just can't see him killing a woman and then trying to kill himself.
He didn't talk very straight to his wife.
Well, after meeting his wife, I don't blame him for sneaking up to see that blonde.
What's the matter with Mrs. Clinton? I thought she was quite good-looking.
Oh, Annie, wait a minute. Looks aren't what count in women after you marry them. I know something about women, and I don't trust her.
How do you know so much about women and marriage?
Well, Annie, look. If you haven't suspected it as yet, we press photographers see you women at your best and your worst.
Which is the reason you remain a bachelor?
Which is the reason I remain a press photographer.
Huh.
Well, I know what Casey means, Miss Williams. It's the same with us bartenders. We meet so many phony dames that a guy gets afraid afraid of all the gals who ain't just like you, Miss Williams.
I see.
Getting back to the subject, this Mrs. Clinton had plenty of motive to shoot that blonde and try to shoot her husband, Casey.
I think she had plenty of motive for the killing, but she didn't have the opportunity.
Mrs. Bloomington was with her when Betty Welch was killed. So was the superintendent of the apartment house. Ada Clinton couldn't have done the job.
Nobody could have, but Clinton himself, apparently. See, Annie, tomorrow morning, let's talk to Mrs. Bloomington again.
A short while ago, the Anchor Hocking Laboratories perfected a beautiful new material, lovely as century-old jade green Chinese porcelain, and as strong and heat-proof as the Fire King oven glass you use for baking. They called it jadeite. Expert designers used jadeite to achieve a new beauty in dinnerware. And today, jadeite dinnerware costs far less than the most ordinary dishes. Now, I know it sounds incredible, but it's true. You can buy a beautiful 35-piece jadeite dinner service for less than $5. Yes, less than $5 for 6 jadeite cups, 6 saucers, 6 dessert dishes, 6 salad plates, 6 dinner plates, 1 large vegetable bowl, a platter, and a sugar and creamer set. And jadeite dinnerware can also be purchased in open stock. Now, you'll find beautiful jadeite dinnerware at chain stores, department stores, hardware stores, and most other stores selling chinaware and glass. Ask for jadeite by name. Jadeite. 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 The newest triumph of Anchor Hocking. The most famous name in glass.
Have another cup of tea, Miss Williams?
No, thanks. thanks, Mrs. Bloomington. 3 is my limit.
You have another, Mr. Casey.
Sure, Mrs. Bloomington. Yeah, I just love tea.
The moment I first met you, I said to myself, there's a fellow tea drinker. Now, what were you saying, Mr. Casey? I remember. I was telling you about poor, dear Ada Clinton asking me to come across the hall to her apartment last night because her husband was going out and John Felix, our superintendent, was coming up to fix the kitchen radiator.
Yeah.
Well, I just love dear Ada, so I dropped everything and went over with her. Even though it seems silly, the super is in her place often, and she's never asked for a chaperone before.
Often?
Casey? Oh, no, don't misconstrue what I'm saying, Miss Williams. A cultivated girl like Ada could have no personal interest in such a common man as John Felix.
Well, what did Felix do to their radiator last night, huh?
Replaced an air valve, he said.
How long did that take?
He was out in the Clintons' kitchen from a little after 9:30 until after 10, when that Welch girl's radio should have been shut off.
At least half an hour.
Yes.
Well, could you see him working out in the kitchen?
No, but he was there.
Huh? Well, Mrs. Bloomington, this has been a delightful visit, but Miss Williams and I must go now.
Not before you have another cup of tea, Mr. Casey.
Tea? Oh, no.
You'd like it so much.
No more tea, Mrs. Bloomington. No more tea.
Casey, if we're caught doing this, we're
Wait a
going to
minute. Mrs. Clinton isn't home this afternoon, Annie, and nobody's prowling around the halls here. There. Sprung the lock on her door. Come on in quick.
Oh, okay. But you can't expect to find anything in her kitchen.
I don't expect to find anything, Annie. Merely want to see the layout. Come in there with me.
Okay.
Slowest mechanic in the world couldn't choose up half an hour replacing an air valve. Hey, this setup is perfect, kid.
What do you mean?
The kitchen stepladder here. Look out this window, Annie.
A window box.
Yeah. Nice, wide, strong one. By placing the kitchen ladder on the window box, he could climb outside and easily pull himself through the window above, which is Betty Welch's kitchen.
Clinton and the Welch girl wouldn't have heard him with that radio blaring as it was.
No. He could have gone to the living room above and fired 2 shots with Clinton's Luger that Ada had given him wrapped in an initialed handkerchief of her husband, and thinking that he'd killed both Clinton and the gal when he saw them fall, he could have dropped the gun and handkerchief beside their bodies and come back here the same way he went up. While Ada was establishing a swell alibi for him and for herself with Mrs. Bloomington.
Felix and Ada Clinton are in love? Is that it?
No. Oh, no. That Ada Clinton couldn't be in love with anybody. Say, wait a minute, Annie. She's the beneficiary of a $10,000 insurance policy on her husband's life.
Yeah, that came out when Captain Logan questioned her. Didn't mean anything to him or to us then because she seemed an impossible suspect.
Yeah, but wait a minute. It's veterans insurance, Annie. GI insurance she has.
Well, so what? You've got a theory and she has GI insurance, which doesn't prove a thing against either her or John Felix.
I think it shows me a way to get proof. Thank you very much for letting me take more pictures of you, Mrs. Clinton.
And for this second interview.
You're quite welcome, Miss Williams, Mr. Casey. Frankly, it isn't easy for me to talk to newspaper people or to anyone at this time.
Well, we appreciate your state of mind, Mrs. Clinton.
I don't think you really can. My husband's going to be executed for murder.
He carried life insurance for you, Mrs. Clinton, didn't he?
Veterans insurance, $10,000.
Only veterans insurance.
That's all.
Oh, my. It's too bad.
Why do you say that?
Well, most people don't thoroughly read insurance policies, you know. Or if they do, they forget the provisions. Have you been like that, Mrs. Clinton?
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, it's my understanding of the GI policy that if your husband is executed for a crime, you get nothing. Did you know that?
No.
You've had a bad deal all around, Mrs. Clinton. I hope your luck changes. Well, let's go, Annie.
Goodbye, Mrs. Clinton.
Goodbye.
Well, she's doing some hard thinking right now, Casey.
There she is. Logan and 2 detectives are all set up in the next apartment with microphones. They've also bored peepholes in the wall. Let's join them and watch and listen.
What do you see, Casey?
All she did was read her husband's GI policy. Also what looked from here like another insurance policy, and then typed a letter or something, which she just folded and put on the table.
You know, the way she typed that letter or something puzzles me, Casey. The gal holds down an expert stenographer's job, but she used the old hunt and peck system.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
You couldn't see anything of what she wrote, of course.
No. Uh-oh. She's at the house telephone.
And that means a call to Felix.
Well, at least I'll be able to hear when she talks. You 2 men can't hog the earphones.
Hello, John.
There she is.
Can you come up right away? Oh, of course it's safe, dear.
Dear?
Hurry, I want to see you.
Casey, I'm afraid your hunch is going to make good.
4 bits says it does, pal.
It's a bet, Piker. She may be merely romancing with this John. Neither may have had anything to do with the murder.
There's her doorbell.
Now we'll see.
You 2 will see. I'll only hear.
Hello, John.
Oh, my beautiful Ada.
Close the door.
Yeah. You think it's all right for me to be up here now? Some of those policemen might be watching us.
Why should they be watching us, honey? We haven't done anything
Casey?
that anybody knows of.
That Logan?
Oh, shut up and listen.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just nervous for no reason.
Well, don't be nervous. Anyway, John, if we were watched, you'd come up here to fix a window for me, one that's hard to open.
Yeah. Give me a kiss, my beautiful Ada.
The gal didn't say no.
You really love me, John.
I am crazy for you.
Would you put that in writing?
In writing?
Yes, I've been thinking. I've never had a love letter from you.
Because we see each other every day.
Hey, what's this mush leading up to?
It would take so long
Just
to
write
write.
a short one, John. Get out your pen and write it on the back of this old letter.
Hey, that's the folded paper we saw her type, Casey.
Yeah.
What shall I write, my darling?
Just, I love you, Ada.
All right. You are such a funny woman, I never understand you. There. I've wrote, I love you, Ada.
Well, aren't you going to sign it?
Oh, sure.
Write your full name. John Felix. It'll look better. I'll like it.
There you are. Anything else?
No. This will do very nicely.
Casey, I don't get this.
It's over my head, pal.
Now, for my love letter, I want another kiss.
Oh, wait, dear. There is something else I want you to do for me. I wasn't kidding about a window being hard to open. It's that one, John. Will you fix it for me?
Yeah, sure, all right. It don't work hard.
Well, lift it clear to the top.
But it slides easy.
Oh, that's funny. Maybe something catches it sometimes from outside. Lean out and look.
All right,
She pushed him, Casey. He's falling.
Out of the window?
I get the idea of that love letter stuff now, Logan.
So do I. And now I'm getting that dame. I've got a key to her apartment, so we'll walk right in. Hello, Mrs. Clinton.
Captain Logan.
I believe a man just fell out of your window.
Oh, Captain, it was John, the superintendent. Captain, he didn't fall. He deliberately jumped.
Tell us about it.
Well, he came up here a while ago acting strangely and asked if he could use my typewriter. I said yes, of course, and he sat down, typed something on this paper that he signed, folded up and handed to me. Then he raised that window. It's horrible.
Naturally, you hadn't had a chance to read the paper he handed you.
No, Mr. Casey, take it. Captain, you read it.
I imagine it'll be John Felix's confession of the murder of Betty Welch. Don't you, Logan?
I think so, Casey, together with a declaration by Felix that he's about to commit suicide.
Why do you say that?
In appreciation of the act you just put on, Mrs. Clinton, I'm making you a present of these bracelets. You're under arrest for murder.
We'll join the crowd at the Blue Note in just a moment. You know, physicians who specialize in baby care agree that diet is the most important factor in a baby's health. Today, with the many varieties of scientifically prepared, ready-to-serve baby foods, It's simple for mothers to supply nourishing, well-balanced meals without spending long hours in the kitchen. But there's another factor almost as important as food itself, and that is cleanliness. For this reason, if for no other, you should insist, yes, insist, on prepared baby foods packed in sterile, crystal-clear glass jars. Glass has no harmful effect whatsoever on food, either before or after the container has been opened. The baby food you buy in an Anchor glass container, sealed with an Anchor vacuum cap, is as clean as that prepared in a hospital. Convenient Anchor glass containers, used by most of the better packers of prepared baby foods, and easy to open, easy to reseal Anchor caps, are products of Anchor Hocking. The most famous name in glass.
So the Clinton dame made a full confession, huh, Casey?
What else could she do under the circumstances, Ethelbert?
Ada Clinton persuaded Felix to kill her husband while he was visiting Betty Welch, and they could provide themselves with beautiful alibis. Felix did the job as Casey figured, but of course he bungled it by not shooting Clinton as thoroughly as he shot the girl.
The general result looked okay to Felix and his beautiful Ada, though, because it seemed certain that Clinton would get the chair.
It stopped looking okay when Mrs. Clinton found out she couldn't collect that insurance,
That's
huh?
right. Well, this sap Felix was so crazy about Mrs. Clinton that he'd taken out insurance for her.
At her suggestion.
Oh, sure. So she decided that since she couldn't profit by the death of her husband, since he was convicted of a crime, she'd free him and cash in on Felix. So she pecked out that letter on her typewriter in imitation of Felix's way of speech.
The letter said he'd killed Betty Welch and was going to kill himself.
Yeah.
Huh.
And Mrs. Clinton folded it so he couldn't see what was typed when he signed his name to the thing.
Say, she's a real bad woman.
Boy, I haven't met him any worse. Hey, wait a minute. That doggone Logan.
What's the matter with Logan?
Well, he didn't pay me that 4 bits.
Oh, Ethelbert, we forgot to tell you. They're showing some of Casey's pictures at the Photography on Parade exhibit at Rockefeller Center.
Well, gee, maybe I'll get over to see him tomorrow night.
Fine. Oh, we'll all go together. You'll be in distinguished company, my dear fellow.
Crime Photographer, starring Staats Cotsworth as Casey, is brought to you each Thursday by the Anchor Hocking Glass Corporation, makers of Fire King oven glass, Anchor glass containers, Anchor caps and closures. All products of Anchor Hocking, the most famous name in glass. Photographer is directed by John Dietz and is based on the fictional character of Flash Gun Casey, created by George Harmon Cox. Original music is by Archie Blyer, and the program features Miss Jan Miner as Anne and John Gibson as Ethelbert. Herman Chittison is the Blue Note pianist. This is Tony Marvin saying goodnight for the Anchor Hocking Glass Corporation of Lancaster, Ohio, with offices in all principal cities of the United States and Canada. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And there you have it. From 76 years ago, February 5th, 1948, Casey, crime photographer, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll continue our 3 hours of crime with an episode of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, starring Gerald Mohr, from 76 years ago, February 5th, 1949. That's up next.
My true love's many faces, many places you see. The city, the country, the sea. Wherever my true love may take it to be. Now zip code will find her for me. Wherever my true love may take it to be. Now zip code will find her for me. Oh, zip code, please find her for me.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back 75 years to February 5th, 1949. Gerald Mohr starring as in the Adventures of Philip Marlowe. Gerald Mohr starring as Marlowe in an episode entitled The Long Rope.
There was a man with a bad heart. A telephone number scribbled on a cash register receipt and a corpse on the other side of town. But I couldn't see the connection between them until I realized that they were all tied together by the same long rope worth $30,000.
From the pen of Raymond Chandler, outstanding author of crime fiction, comes his most famous character as CBS presents The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. And now, with Gerald Mohr, starred as Philip Marlowe, we bring you tonight's exciting story, The Long Rope.
I'd finally wound up a sour case in which I'd been kicked around, disillusioned, and shortchanged. And in my book, a routine like that calls for relaxation. So I'd spent the morning sleeping and the afternoon in a Turkish bath, being worked over on the table by Nick Takalakis, a non-talking masseur who untied knots in more muscles than I thought I had. He was trying to tear loose my Achilles tendon when the phone rang. It was for me. Nick wouldn't let me up, so I took it lying down. Yeah? Marlowe speaking?
My name is Sidney Vanetta, Mr. Marlowe. I've tried all afternoon to reach you.
Oh? Nick, what can I do for you, Mr. Vanetta?
I've already made your reservation with American Airlines. You're leaving on the 10 o'clock plane tonight, and you're taking with you a set of pearls for a certain buyer in Chicago.
Wait a minute, Mr. Vanetta. Maybe I can...
No, maybe, Marlowe. I've checked thoroughly on you and find you entirely qualified, which is important because the pearls are a perfectly matched set in a rope valued at about $30,000. The buyer wants them, and I made up my mind just this morning to sell. The proceeds will go to my niece.
Lucky girl.
Indeed she is, particularly since I have no respect for her as a woman. She presumes to be a sculptress of all things, but she's my only heir. I'm selling the pearls simply because I know she would, and I can get more for them.
Yeah, Hey, Nick, wait a minute, will you? Why all the hurry, Mr. Vanetta?
First, the buyer is leaving Chicago tomorrow. Second, my heart may fail me at any moment. That's the hurry, Mr. Marlowe.
I see. Well, I'll take the job, conditionally. But suppose I come out and talk with you. Telephones are deceptive.
Very well. Come to 7241 Adams, just below Western. I'll expect you in an hour, at 6, sharp. Side door will be open, so let yourself in.
Sounds like you're alone out there.
I am. I just fired my nurse, a Miss Drew, and as stupid a woman as the earth was ever cursed. But I shouldn't get excited about it. I've engaged a new one, due here at 5:30, but who will no doubt be late. So as I say, Marlowe, when you get here, just let yourself in. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Well, Nick, you better hurry it up. I gotta see a man about a rope worth $30,000. Yeah, that's right. A rope worth $30,000. Vanetta's place on Adams was a big, fancy, and dirty gray place. 40 years ago, it had been a proud, expensive house. But now it's squatted at the back end of a rundown yard like a bitter old man too tired to move. I found the side door unlocked and went in. The hallway was dusky and had the odor of moldy wool. I called Vanetta's name but got no answer. So I poked on in until I heard the snapping of an open fire. It came from the library. A big chair was drawn up in front of the fireplace, and there Vanetta sat, his chin sunk deep in his chest and his eyes closed. I coughed, but he didn't hear me, so I stepped close and shook him gently by the shoulder. All it took was a gentle shake. He sagged forward and poured out of the chair like stiff syrup. Mr. Vanetta was dead. I started for the phone to report the body, but then I heard gravel crunch in the driveway. Someone else was coming in that side door, so I stepped out into the hall and waited.
Mr. Vanetta, it's Oh. Who are you?
Philip Marlowe, who are you?
Steve Temple. I'm Mr. Vanetta's business agent.
Here on business now?
Yes, I am. It's all the same to you. I came to see Mr. Vanetta regarding some pearls. So if you'll excuse... Oh,
Yeah, the pearls can wait. Their owner's dead.
so it finally happened, huh?
You're taking the news very well, Temple.
I've been expecting it every day for 5 years. You found him, I suppose?
We had an appointment at 6. He wanted me to fly his pearls to Chicago. What are you staring at, Temple?
Why, there's a bottle of medicine here.
What about it?
Well, for years, he's kept this stuff beside him in case of an attack. Yet, when he actually needed it, it was over here on the sideboard out of his reach. Ironic, isn't it?
Very. He fired Miss Drew, his old nurse, today and didn't expect the new one until 5:30. Say, do you happen to know her name?
No one. You mean he's engaged a new nurse?
That's right. She's an hour late already.
Yeah. Well, for once, that doesn't matter to Mr. Vanetta.
Say, Temple, are you acquainted with his niece?
Vivian Russell? Of course. She's a sculptress. There's a studio out on Fountain, near Bronson, I believe.
She was to get the proceeds from the pearls.
Well, I assumed that, although nothing was ever said. She's his only heir.
Where would those pearls be now?
I kept them in a wall safe behind that picture there, consistently against my advice.
Yeah, sure. Opens with a key. Where would that be?
He carried it with him on his watch chain. Why? What are you going to do?
I'll take a look at the pearls and then have them impounded. Yeah, this must be the key. Now, let's open it up.
It's there, that velvet case.
As big as an overnight bag. Must be some string of beads.
It is, Marlowe. Here, let me open it. There. Right. It's nothing but tissue paper.
Yeah. It's not too surprising. While Temple called the police and tried to keep the details straight on a natural death and an unnatural theft, I went over the room again with a new viewpoint. All that turned up without an easy explanation was one, a cash register receipt for $1.34 with the phone number Republic 2809 penciled on the back. And two, the peculiar position of Mr. Vanetta's medicine bottle, which Temple had already noticed. I dropped the receipt in my pocket and told Temple to wait for the law. He gave me his home address and phone number, and I promised to check in with him later and left. The first stop was a phone booth where I dug into the nurses' registries and hit pay dirt on the fourth call.
Miss Drew? Yes, we have a Miss Drew.
Is she the one who worked for Mr. Sidney Vanetta but was fired this afternoon?
That's his opinion. Actually, Miss Drew quit.
All right, have it your way. Where can I get in touch with her?
She's right here where she's been since 3 o'clock this afternoon. What is the nature of your business, sir?
Never mind. You've already answered my question. But look, Mr. Vanetta hired another nurse to replace Miss Drew. Is the new girl one of yours?
Absolutely not. Mr. Vanetta will never get another nurse from this registry or from any other that I know of.
You're so right.
He's utterly impossible to please in any way, and we're through trying. Goodbye.
Well, Miss Drew was in the clear, and Vanetta began to focus as a pretty odd Johnny. But I was still trying to figure why the new nurse hadn't shown up when I reached for a cigarette and brought out the cash register receipt with the phone number on the back. So I tried it. Republic 2809. It rang, but nothing happened. I got in my car then and drove up to Hollywood and out Fountain to Bronson, where the only Vanetta heir, Miss Vivian Russell, had a studio. It was a converted double garage with a lot of north windows, so her new close-to-the-ground Hudson sat outside in the driveway. The adjoining four-room apartment looked cozy enough, if you liked wading through chunks of marble and eating off of last week's newspaper. Yeah, I was braced for a dowdy Amazon with broken fingernails as I rang the bell. That's why the dainty 118 pounds of taboo-scented blonde, who was clad in 10 chartreuse yards of whispering silk cut like lounging pajamas, caught me as flat-footed as a duck when she opened the door.
Hi. Did you want something?
Yes, yeah. My name is Marlowe. I'd like to speak to Miss Vivian Russell.
You are. So go ahead and enjoy yourself, Marlowe.
May I come inside? I have some bad news, Miss Russell.
Oh, sure. Come on in. Now, shall I sit down or just hang on to something?
Suit yourself. Your uncle, Mr. Vanetta, died this afternoon.
Oh, his heart finally gave up, did it, huh?
Yeah, but you shouldn't go all to pieces like that, Vivian.
Now, wait. He meant nothing to me, but I'm glad his suffering is over.
The pearls are missing, too.
Well, really? What happened to them?
They were stolen, and don't tell me that means nothing to you because you're getting the money, $30,000 worth.
What? Uncle Sidney intended to give me the money from those pearls? How do you know that?
I'm a private detective. He told me he was my client.
Oh, then you're out of a job. Say, how would you like to work for me, Marlowe? I'm serious. Now I want those pearls back, you know.
Now, for $25 a day in expenses, it's a deal. Now, you tell me something. Who did your uncle hire today to replace Miss Drew?
The nurse? Why, I didn't even know Miss Drew had been fired.
How did you know she didn't quit?
With Uncle Sidney? Try me again.
Republic 2809.
That doesn't mean a thing. You know, Marlowe, you've got an awfully good head.
Are you speaking as a sculptress or just an ordinary chiseler?
And what is that crack supposed to mean?
You didn't know you were getting the money legally. You might have taken the pearls yourself.
Oh, stop it, Marlowe.
Okay, client. Well, I'll run along. I've got work to do.
All right, but don't forget that all work and no play makes for a dull companion.
Yes, and it also makes $25 a day. I'll be seeing you. All the way down Sunset to Vine Street, I kept telling myself $1 a buck regardless. But the idea that I'd been grabbed at stayed with me. Vivian Russell had plenty of motive as a dry land pearl diver, and if that's true, she'd need a patsy just to keep her abreast of the situation. I turned north on Vine and twisted up Beechwood Drive to 2000, the number Steve Temple had given me. He had had 2 hours of playing 20 questions policeman style, and I figured it was time to check his score. Also, Temple was the man to fill in a few blanks on my new client for me. His place was dark, but I got out anyway and started up the walk to his door. I'd gone about a dozen steps into a tunnel of overhanging shrubs when I heard it.
Psst. Hey, you.
I turned as a man stepped out onto the walk and came toward me slowly. He was tall, wiry, with a thin, arrogant face that sneered out from under an expanse of forehead big enough for 3 sets of eyebrows. All shaggy.
We're gonna have a talk, Mr. Temple. Hey, you're not Temple.
Now we both know that. I'm a friend of his. What do you want with Temple?
I've got a message for him, but it's personal.
Who from?
Like I say, it's personal, mister. I'll be back later.
Come here. I said I'm a friend of Temple's. If you got a message for him, I'll see that he gets it.
Well, okay, then. Tell him that some of his friends are too blasted nosy.
Go! The guy with the forehead had a great left jab and a pair of hurdler's legs, and by the time I untangled myself from the brush and got out on the walk again, he was gone. Well, I knew it was a waste of time, but I tried Temple's doorbell twice before I went back to my car. Nothing made sense, except that somebody who knew his way around had stolen a long rope of pearls, and somewhere in the city was a nurse who hadn't shown up on a new job. Beyond that, it was all question marks. Well, I drove down to the filling station on the corner and went inside with the phone. I started to call police headquarters, but instead dropped the nickel in and dialed Republic 2809 again, just on a hunch.
Lieutenant Ibarra speaking.
Ibarra? I didn't dial you, Ibarra.
What?
This is Marlowe.
Well, you got me anyway. Now, listen, Phil, I hear you're on that Vanetta case.
Yeah.
If it'll help you any, the coroner says definitely he died of a heart attack. No homicide involved.
Thanks, Lieutenant. Hey, but look, where are you now?
In a flat on the corner of Union and 59th Street. Why?
Well, is that phone number there, Republic 2809?
Well, that's a great piece of deduction. You just called it.
Ibarra, listen, I found that number at Vanetta's place this afternoon. What's going on down there?
There's a girl here named Betty Larson.
Yeah, she's a nurse, right?
No, wrong, Phil. She's a corpse. Before that, she was a waitress. Just a waitress. Somebody came to her door and killed her for no apparent reason whatsoever.
In just a moment, we will return to the second act of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. But first, Jack Benny will be along on CBS tomorrow night with one of his funniest shows ever. In addition to his regular hecklers, Dennis, Don, Phil, Mary, and Rochester, Claudette Colbert and Vincent Price will pay a call on Jack. And with Don Wilson still wanting a raise in pay, and with Jack still trying to starve him into talking terms, you're sure to find the situations full of the hilarity and fast-moving fun that have made CBS's Jack Benny Show the top-rating comedy of all. Yes, remember, CBS also means Catch Benny Sundays. Now, with our star, Gerald Mohr, we return to the second act of Philip Marlowe and tonight's story, The Long Rope.
It was 40 minutes of thick stop-and-go traffic from the time I quit talking to Ibarra until I pulled up near the 4 stories of faded, sagging tenement on the corner of Union and 59th. But even then, the crazy question that had been weaving in and out of my mind like a 2 a.m. drunk looking for the way to go home was still with me. Why was the telephone number Republic 2809 bracketed by a couple of dead people who, as far as I could see, should have had nothing to do with each other in the first place? Right there, for the 10th time running, I drew a complete and unabridged blank. But a minute later, when I climbed out of my coupe and over the bumpers of the half-dozen squad cars that were jammed into the narrow street like so many toy autos that a kid had forgotten about, I quit asking myself riddles and started looking for Detective Lieutenant Ibarra, a quiet man who always preferred fact to fancy. I found him in a cheap but clean uniform-crowded room on the second floor, standing a few feet away from the body of Betty Lawson, a girl in a bathrobe who had once been something pretty in her early 20s.
Well, Phil, the coroner says she was shot twice in the chest at close range, died instantly.
Is that where she fell, Lieutenant, there near the door?
Yeah, looks like she just gotten home and into her robe when someone she didn't know knocked on the door. The safety chain was still on when we got here. The windows leading no place.
Those chains let her door open just wide enough for the barrel of a gun, is that it?
Yeah, but how does all this add with those missing pearls and the rest of that business over on Adams, Marlowe?
Not like 2 and 2, believe me. So far, Ibarra, the only question is the telephone number. Tell me, where did this Betty Lawson work?
Well, we haven't gotten that far yet.
So long, Lieutenant.
Yeah, so long. Right now, we only know that she was a waitress who stayed here with her brother, who was some kind of a student. They got along pretty well together. She was single, too. Lived here since... Oh, wait a minute. Lieutenant Ibarra. Oh, yeah, Mooney. Ryan's Cafe, huh? Ryan himself runs it. Okay. I'll check it personally, right?
Hey, is that where she worked, Ibarra, Ryan's Cafe?
Yeah, but it's funny, Phil. She lived here since early 1947. And Mooney tells me she worked that 24-hour hash house just as long, yet it's way over on the other side of town in Western.
Western and where, Ibarra?
The 2300 block. Should be near Washington.
Washington, which is only 1 block from Adams, and that starts to close the big circle.
What do you mean, Marlowe?
Well, that the Vanetta place is on Adams near Western. Look, Ibarra, how about letting me huddle over a cup of Ryan's coffee before the law steps in, huh?
Oh, you got a hunch you want to check, Phil?
Yeah, that and a cash register receipt. What do you say?
All right, but play it close, fellow. Ryan probably doesn't know about this yet.
No? Unless, of course, he squeezed the trigger. Goodbye, Ibarra. I was a half hour getting over to Ryan's Cafe on Western, which turned out to be a lot of steamed-over plate glass, bragging about a 40-cent hot roast beef sandwich in 2-foot-high white chalk letters. And inside, the motif was the same. Everything that Mr. Ryan sold was a bargain. I slid onto a shaky stool opposite a cash customer who was something dirty in a torn overcoat buried deep in a handicapper's sheet and coffee. He looked up once, grinned no teeth at me, then hollered for Ryan in the kitchen, who said that he only had 2 hands and would be out in a minute. But before those 60 seconds ran out, I looked around, and over in a corner, in a collection of trash piled next to a broom, I saw a very welcome piece of paper. It was a brother of the cash register receipt that I'd found on Sidney Vanetta's desk, the one that had tied Betty Lawson's murder onto the rope of pearls. I turned back to the counter just as Ryan started toward me. He was a little bigger and a little better looking than the average ape, and on his right arm, under thick, coarse black hair that was long enough to braid, there was a tattoo of a dancing girl who, if Ryan ever shaved about his wrist, would freeze to death.
What'll it be, mister? Coffee?
Yeah, and a little information. You know Sidney Vanetta, Ryan?
That screwball with a bump ticker over on Adams? Yeah, I know him. Why? What's up?
His time on Earth, for one thing, he's dead.
Too bad. Should have taken it easier. Cream?
No. Pearls.
What'd you say?
Nothing. Ryan, who brought that tray up to the Vanetta place this afternoon?
I did.
Sure it wasn't Betty Lawson?
I'm positive. None of the girls would go near that place. Vanetta was hard to get along with. Now you tell me something. What are you, mister? Newshound, collection man, or cop?
Getting warm, Ryan. I'm a private detective named Marlowe.
I'm thrilled. Good night.
Before I finish my coffee?
Before I throw you out. I don't like too many questions.
Not even easy ones, huh? Like who murdered Betty Larson?
Betty's dead?
Yeah. Over in her flat on 59th Street, shot twice with a .32. When'd you last see her, Ryan?
Why, a couple of hours ago when she quit for the night. Marlowe, the cops got any idea who did it?
I don't know. Right now, they're looking for a boyfriend.
You're crazy. Betty didn't have a boyfriend.
Outside of you?
Outside of me. So I'm going over to straighten them out now. Mitzi! Mitzi!
Yeah?
Get out here and take over.
Okay.
I gotta move fast.
No, you don't, Ryan. Betty's dead, remember?
Yeah, but whoever did it ain't. Now, don't try to stop me, Marlowe. You'll get hurt.
Look, Ryan, why don't you play smart and... what's the use? Go on, start running. You won't get very far. For the first time that night, I felt sure of what I was saying. Because even as Ryan had squared himself away to play bounce the private detective, I suddenly noticed a friendly face working hard over a stale donut at the far end of the counter. It was Lieutenant Ibarra. And when Ryan tossed his apron aside, grabbed at his coat, and slammed out the front door, Ibarra turned and nodded at a short man nearby who was idly picking his teeth with the end of a book of matches. At that, the man dropped the matches into his pocket and left. Then Ibarra moved over to me.
Didn't mean to crowd you here, Phil, but after you left, we found out that Ryan and Betty Larson used to see quite a bit of each other.
Don't apologize, Ibarra. Probably would have cost me a couple of front teeth if I hadn't noticed you.
Warm up your coffee, mister?
Yeah, please. You, Ibarra?
No, Phil, I gotta move now. You see, I don't think Ryan did this. I told Mooney to follow him, but not to pick him up. The chances are good that Ryan's heading straight for Betty's apartment to demand that the police find out who killed his girl, so I'm going the other way, to Ryan's house. There may be another woman in this. Jealous one.
But no rope of pearls, huh?
No, Marlowe, I don't think so. Good night now.
Night, Lieutenant. Well, Mitzi, how long have you worked here?
Couple of days. But I don't know nothing about Mr. Ryan. I'm a married woman, and Hey, what do you think you're staring at, mister?
Maybe something wonderful, Mitzi. Tell me, baby, do you always wear that kind of a uniform when you're working here?
Sure. Ryan says this girl should look neat and clean. It helps business. Anything wrong with that?
No. Matter of fact, it might be just the lead I'm after.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, and if I'm right, baby, the rest of this case will be a cinch. So good night and thanks. You've been a big help, sweetheart. When I got back to the corner of Union and 59th, I took the stairs up to Betty Larson's flat 2 at a time, crossed the fingers on both hands, and prayed that Ibarra was right about Ryan returning to his girl's place. When I stepped into the room a second later, I knew that I'd never doubt the good lieutenant again because standing next to an open window and staring out at nothing was Ryan himself, numbed and red-eyed. I asked him one question. And although his answer was only a couple of words mumbled between trembling lips, it was all I had to know. Now everything. Betty Larson's murder, the death of Vanetta, the guy with the forehead and the missing pearls, the whole shebang was starting to fall together. Oh, come on, baby. Be home, please.
Hello?
Marlowe, Vivian. Look, honey, I want you to do me a favor. Get hold of Steve Temple and meet me over at your uncle's place on Adams as soon as possible. I need your help. Goodbye.
Well, Marlowe, what took you so long? I understood you needed our help and in a hurry at that.
I had quite a way to come, Temple. Is Vivian here?
Yes, Marlowe, Vivian's here, and that means that we can stop counting noses. Now, why do you need our help?
Catch someone who stole once and murdered twice?
Murdered twice?
That's right. You know, it's my guess that whoever stole that rope of pearls also moved Vanetta's medicine out of reach when his heart started skipping beats.
Can you prove that?
No, I can't, but it doesn't matter, really, because the guilty one also killed a party named Larson. And when you pay for one, Vivian, you paid for them all.
I don't follow you, Marlowe. Who are you talking about?
I'm not sure, but this much is certain. Vanetta called me at 5. When I got here at 6, he was already dead and the pearls were gone. Now, I figured that whoever took them argued with him first, which makes that person, 1, somebody who knew Vanetta, and 2, responsible for the old man's death.
Then the new nurse couldn't possibly have been the one who stole the pearls.
No, but the new nurse could have been the one who overheard everything while standing right here.
Haven't you been able to find this nurse?
No, not yet. But sooner or later, honey, I'm sure we'll catch up to him.
Him?
Yes, Temple, I said him. Nurse Larson is a male with a lot of forehead and few ethics. The person you killed was his sister Betty, a waitress. And don't move, Temple, or I'll be glad that I was forced to put holes in you.
Temple's the one? He stole the rope of pearls?
Yeah. But this Nurse Larson who saw him do it got in touch with him, right, Temple?
It was filthy blackmail.
Which you were going to stop by a filthier murder, and you almost did. Because somehow or other you got the right room in the right house on Union and 59th, but the wrong party. Isn't that about it, Temple?
Yes, Marlowe. That's about it.
Oh, leave me alone, Temple.
Now, Marlowe, you don't shoot me without going through Vivian first. Dear Vivian, Sidney's precious niece was going to have the pearls all to herself. Don't move, Marlowe. It'll cost Vivian her life if you do.
I doubt that very much, Temple.
Larson.
That's right. Joe Larson, forehead and all. Now, you, Temple, step away from that girl or I'll tear you to pieces.
No, Larson, no. Now, we can still do business like you said in that note you sent me. I'll split with you.
Shut up. You forget two things, Temple. First, you tried to kill me. And second, you did kill my sister. Now, why don't you run for it? Or are you afraid? Which is it? Come on, Temple, talk.
I am afraid.
Well, Marlowe, that just about winds things up.
Yep. Joe Larson sent up for attempted extortion, and Temple...
Sent up for good.
Mm-hmm.
Say, Marlowe, when you called a while ago and said that you wanted Temple and me to help you, did you know then that Temple was the murderer?
No, I didn't, Vivian. Then I only knew that whoever had killed Betty Larson had mistaken her for the new nurse, and that the actual nurse was Betty's brother, Joe.
Where'd you get hold of that, Phil?
Well, it started in Ryan's Cafe, Barra, just after you left. I had nurses on the brain, I guess. And when I took a good look at the waitress there, I suddenly realized that her white uniform, white shoes, and white cap could easily confuse a guy like Temple, who also had nurses on the brain.
Well, I can see a killer making a mistake about appearances, all right, but I still don't understand how it is that the telephone number of my uncle's nurse turned out to be Betty's apartment.
Because a nurse did live there, honey. Betty's brother was a medical student, part-time male nurse, and full-time bum. You see, Ryan, who brought food to Uncle Sidney, knew that he needed a new nurse, and he sold him on the idea of Joe Larson, because he wanted his girlfriend's brother to have a job.
Oh, I get it. Say, I know what I'm going to do with those pearls.
Sell them?
To the highest bidder.
Oh, no, I'm going to break up that set.
Break up the set?
Yeah, I'd like very much to get a pair of earrings out of them. Oh, and for each of you, a set of cufflinks. Good night, gentlemen.
When Vivian got into a car, aimed it toward a collection of chipped rocks on Fountain near Bronson, and waved goodbye, it was nearly 3 o'clock in the morning. No. After I said so long to Ibarra and started back to my apartment on Franklin, an idea hit me for the first time. A pearl is the result of the irritation of an oyster, a disease. And when you string a lot of diseases together, the result is frequently a plague. But it's from plagues like that I make a living. That's what I get for reading books. I wonder if I'll ever go any place where I can wear pearl cufflinks.
The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, created by Raymond Chandler, stars Gerald Mohr and is produced and directed by Norman MacDonald. Script is by Mel Donnelly, Robert Mitchell, and Gene Levitt. Featured in the cast were Junius Matthews, Louis Van Ruten, Fay Baker, David Ellis, Lillian Baeff, and Ed Begley. Lieutenant Detective Ibarra is played by Jeff Corey. The special music is by Richard Orant. Be sure and be with us again next week when Philip Marlowe says...
A corpse that wouldn't stay dead, a pistol with a silencer on it, and a fortune in a black satchel spelled death for the big city boys when they finally got together in lonesome Arizona. Population 802.
Stars light, stars bright, and that's no optical illusion. The brilliant gleaming list of stars on CBS tomorrow night. Van Johnson's the star on the Prudential Hour drama. Spike Jones will positively appear in a sketch getting the war paint off Bob Hope's latest movie. Jack Benny will have Claudette Colbert and Vincent Price as his special guests. Amos and Andy, Dashiell Hammett, Sam Spade, and Lum and Abner are the next bright stars in line. Then Helen Hayes, First Lady of the Stage, starring on her Sunday night Electric Theater, followed by Hollywood's own Eve Arden in the wonderfully comic series Our Miss Brooks. In the next to closing, another bright comedy, Life with Luigi, and the whole star lineup, topped off by the world's most brilliant addlepates, the experts on It Pays to Be Ignorant. Jack Benny's program will come to you over all of these same stations, and the others in this vast array of stars will be heard over most of them. Top writers, top directors, and top stars of American show business come to you on CBS. Now, stay tuned for Gangbusters, which follows immediately. This is Roy Rowan speaking for CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Gerald Mohr, an outstanding actor, and even though back in 1949 he was named the best male actor on radio, this was his only starring role, unless you count the Adventures of Bill Lance, which is a very minimal series, and Michael Lanyard in The Lone Wolf. But The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, his only real solid leading role. Gerald Mohr in an episode of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe from 75 years ago today, February 5th, 1949, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We don't know who starred in this episode of Calling All Cars. In general, we don't get the seats of cast, and they don't really say who was the players. But we can tell you that the episode you're going to hear today is about the banker in the well, and it's from 89 years ago, February 5th, 1935. That'll be up next, here on this Monday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Zip code. During this holiday season, the post office would like you to help them get your mail through faster. Zip code.
Zip code.
Put the zip on every letter.
Zip code. Zip code.
Your mail will get there better.
It will move without delay. It's the perfect way to get the mail to where it's going.
Zip code.
Zip code.
Zip up this holiday season.
It's the easy way. Shop early, mail early. Use zip code today.
Zip code is the sure way to get the mail going quickly, dependably, and safely to its destination. Zip code moves the mail.
Shop early.
Beat the crowds. Get your shopping done early.
Mail early.
Avoid the last-minute rush. Mail early.
Use zip code today. Zip code.
Make a mailman happy.
Yeah, by the way, I haven't mentioned MyPillow in a while, and I just want to mention them for just a second, that they're having a half-price sale on the MyPillow 2.0 products and a lot of other sales right now. They also have some new flannel sheets in. Check out MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Wyatt when you go over there, would you please? Coming up tomorrow, more crime. Dangerous Assignment starring Brian Dunleavy. An episode of the Mutual program Under Arrest. Sir John Gielgud and Sir Ralph Richardson in a 1955 episode of the New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. William Gargan is Barry Craig Confidential Investigator. And then Inner Sanctum Mysteries. And Death in the Depths. I'm also going to bring you an early show that we got from our good friend who does Dragnet, Jack Webb. 1 out of 7. This was strictly on the West Coast. And when you hear how Webb did all these voices, it was interesting. And it talks about a racist. And then we will have an episode of Lum and Abner dealing with overdue grocery bills. That'll be coming up next here on tomorrow on our Tuesday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Right now, though, we are going to have an episode of Calling All Cars, the West Coast program, sponsored by Rio Grande Gasoline. And this goes back 89 years ago. This is from February 5th, 1935, The Banker in the Well.
Hauling Calling all cars, a presentation of the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Tucson Police calling all cars, attention all cars. Broadcast 63. Gordon H. Sawyer, Vice President of the Southern Arizona Bank and Trust Company, kidnapped from his home tonight. Suspects unknown. All cars report to headquarters for further orders. That's all.
Newsflash. Oakland, California now specifies Rio Grande cracked gasoline for all its police cars, fire engines, and emergency equipment. Rio Grande, already used by more police cars wherever it is sold than any other brand of gasoline, now helps the police of Oakland to fight crime by speeding up police car performance.
Fill her up with Rio Grande cracked gasoline.
Yes, sir.
Oh, George, what's that headline? It's about a train wreck.
I'll buy the paper.
Oh, that's the Calling All Cars news, sir. Help yourself. It's free.
Free? Oh, well, that's a novel idea.
You want to read that train wreck story? It's true, and you'll hear it over Calling All Cars this month.
Movie news, previews of the new movies, and a theater guide.
Oh, look. Here's a radio guide, too. It lists all the good programs. This is just what I want.
What's this? It says 1,000 gallons of Rio Grande cracked gasoline to be given away free. Now they're talking. I'd like to get 1,000 gallons of Rio Grande. That's the finest gasoline I ever used.
Yeah, everyone who listens to Calling All Cars ought to come in and get a copy of this Calling All Cars news. It's the most unique publication I've ever seen.
And you give these copies away free?
Oh, yes, indeed. Tell your friends to drive into any service station selling Rio Grande cracked gasoline, and they'll get a free copy.
We are now pleased to present Chief James E. Davis of the Los Angeles Police Department, who has brought with him a distinguished visitor. Chief Davis.
Good evening, friends. It is with natural pride that I have often, on these programs, lauded the excellent work of the men under my command. But in so doing, I have by no means intended to underestimate the value and efficiency of our other Western law enforcement organizations. In Tucson, Arizona, there is a police force which many a town 10 times larger might be proud to claim as its own. Under the able leadership of Chief C.A. Wallard, the Tucson police, just a year ago, became world famous when they brought the Dillinger mob to their first accounting with the law. Tonight, we are dramatizing another famous Tucson crime, and I have asked Chief Wallard to come here as my guest and to say a word to the audience of Calling All Cars. It is my great honor to introduce Chief Wallard of Tucson, Arizona.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the West. I'm one is honored to be asked to participate in a splendid radio program. For more than a year, Calling Cars has performed a great public service and acquainting the public with policemen's problems. No one realizes this value of this work more than we peace officers. Our task of preserving a peace in Tucson is much different than the one performed by Metropolitan Police. Our native crime rate is very low. There has never been a bank robbery in Tucson, and only one safe has been blown in our city in the last year and 1.5 I have been chief. We have had 2 kidnappings. We have solved them both. Beyond the petty crime, the theft and robbery, our citizens give us little trouble. But because of its isolation, our city has been regarded by the eastern criminals as a safe place to come and cool off. Our little skirmish with the Dillinger mob last year has changed that opinion considerably. Tucson is an unwise place for criminals to commit a major crime. Relatively isolated, with only 3 or 4 roads leading from it. A fugitive cannot get away before we have every means of exit blocked. Contrary to general opinion, the desert is not a safe place to hide. Tonight, I have selected from my confidential files a story of the first kidnapping in the history of Arizona and the abduction of my good friend, Gordon Sawyer, what happened to him and how we solved the case. You're about to hear. On with the show.
February 4th, 1932, Tucson, Arizona. It is lodge night, and Mrs. Gordon Sawyer, wife of the vice president of the Southern Arizona Bank and Trust Company, is home alone awaiting the return of her husband from the meeting. Shortly before midnight, she hears an automobile horn blow 3 times. This is Mr. Sawyer's familiar signal. He has just turned the corner. She peers through the drapes of the living room window, sees Mr. Sawyer's Packard wheel into the driveway. She hears the car drive into the garage. She hurries to the door, eager to greet her husband, when she hears the car back out of the driveway.
Gordon! Gordon! Gordon, where are you going? Well, that's funny. I wonder why he drove away like that. Good heavens, maybe he... Oh, operator. Hello, operator. Give me 2126. Yes. Oh, hurry, please.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Robertson.
Yes?
This is Mrs. Sawyer.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Sawyer.
Did you see Gordon at lodge meeting tonight?
Why, no, I didn't go tonight.
Oh,
Is there anything wrong?
no, not at all. Only, well, he hasn't come home yet. Thank you. Goodbye, Mr. Robertson. Oh, hurry, operator. Why don't you answer? Hello? Hello, get me 2139, please. And hurry, please.
Hello?
Hello, Mildred. Is Tom back from lodge yet?
Why, yes, Sarah.
May I speak with him, please?
Certainly. Just a moment.
Hello, Sarah. What's on your mind?
Tom, was Gordon at lodge tonight?
Sure. What's the idea, Sarah? Checking up on him?
Oh, Tom, don't be absurd. What time did he leave?
Oh, about 15 minutes ago. He left with me. What's the matter? Isn't he home yet?
No, not yet, Tom.
Oh, that's funny. He said he was going right home. Said he had a big day ahead of him tomorrow.
Tom, I'm worried. I think he came home and then went away.
What are you talking about, Sarah?
Well, he drove in the driveway. I saw him through the window. And before I could get to the side door, he backed the car out and drove off.
Are you sure?
Yes, Tom, positive.
That sounds mighty funny to me.
Well, what'll I do, Tom? I'm frightened.
Well, look here, now, don't get yourself upset. Mildred and I'll hop into the car and come right over. Then I'll have a look around.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
No, he's probably just going down to the corner for a cigar.
Oh, I hope so.
Well, don't worry. We'll be over and right away.
A half hour, an hour passes, and Gordon Sawyer does not return home. His friend Tom searches the ground around the house, while Mildred tries to calm Mrs. Sawyer's fears. Finally, Tom decides to call the police. Mark L. Robbins, identification expert at the Tucson Police Department, interviews Mrs. Sawyer at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And the car drove away and he hasn't come back.
Might have gone to the bank or to visit some friends.
Oh, certainly not, Mr. Robbins. I've called all of our friends and they haven't seen him since he left lodge meeting tonight. And he never goes anyplace without telling me.
I've searched the grounds, Mr. Robbins. There's no sign of any disturbance. I've asked the neighbors, and no one has heard any prowlers around tonight. It's just as though he disappeared into thin air.
Did he have any valuables on him, Mrs. Sawyer?
Oh, yes, he always carries quite a bit of money, $40 or $50. And then he wears a diamond ring and a diamond stick pin and his watch.
Uh-huh. Might be a robbery.
Well, if it were a robbery, why did the robbers take him away like that?
Well, that's hard to say, Mrs. Sawyer. Of course, it might be
a kidnapping? Oh, Mr. Robbins, good heavens.
Now, don't get so excited, ma'am. After all, we're not sure of anything.
Oh, but if it is, if he's been kidnapped...
Don't worry, ma'am. We'll bring him back wherever he is.
Within half an hour, Chief of Police Dyer and Sheriff Bailey are in conference with Robbins in police headquarters.
Well, from all the Robbins has reported, it looks like a kidnap to me, Sheriff.
Yes, I think you're right, Chief. If it was plain robbery, they'd have held him up, and that'd be that.
Well, there's little we can do tonight. Well, we'd better throw a blockade on all the roads.
Right. Oh, Watson.
Yes, sir.
Phone the Border Patrol in Nogales. Tell them to watch out for a gray Packard sedan, license number 30879.
Yes, sir.
And detail men on Route 84 and Route 80 to block these roads. Also on the Nogales Road and the road to Benson.
And don't forget the Twin Buttes Road, Sheriff.
Oh, yes. Send a car out to the turnoff by Santa Fe Mission to check all cars going to the mission or into the reservation.
Yes, sir.
And also wire Gila Bend, Casa Grande, Globe, Prescott, and Phoenix, giving them descriptions of the car and of Mr. Sawyer.
Right away, sir.
Not much good it'll do, though, while it's still dark. It's too easy to hide in this desert at night.
And even when the sun shines, it's going to be mighty hard to find even a Packard if it's 20 yards off the road in that Palo Verde and Mesquite.
Yeah, but there's a quick way of doing it.
Yeah, what's that, Mark?
Search for him by air. It'll save a lot of time.
That's a swell idea, Mark.
Yeah, but where do we get the planes? We haven't enough funds to go out and charter a lot of airplanes by the day.
How about Mrs. Greenway? She's got several ships.
Hey, that's right. I wonder if she'd be willing to lend them to us.
Sure she would. Mrs. Greenway's a swell person.
Summoned from her sleep in the middle of the night, Mrs. Greenway, famed Arizona congresswoman, is informed of the possible abduction of Mr. Sawyer. Asked for the use of her planes, she readily grants the request and assures Sheriff Bailey that the ships will be at his disposal whenever and for as long as he wants them. Dawn on the desert. The jagged crests of Tucson's silent mountain guardians yawn deep blue against the crimson morning sky. Saddle Peak, 30 miles west, catches the first beam of the waking sun. A moment later, the mountains across the border in Mexico wears a golden halo. And then a swath of bright sunlight brushes across the valley floor, spills over the mountaintops, gilds the wings of 6 speedy airplanes, their propellers idling, as they stand in line on the Tucson airport, waiting for the touch of the throttle that will send them roaring through the clear blue morning sky on the first airplane manhunt in the Southwest. Sheriff Bailey gives last-minute instructions to the group of pilots and deputies who circle around him.
Now, all you deputies understand which pilots you're riding with, and each of you pilots understand the sector you're to patrol. First ship to see anything suspicious will spiral about the spot. Men in the cars will get there as soon as they can. Don't leave the suspicious spot until you're sure the police cars arrive. It's getting late now, so go on with it, boys.
One by one, the sleek, swift airplanes take off in the chill morning air. The scene might be an aerodrome behind the lines in France, as the dawn patrol takes off to meet their poker-mounted adversaries in battle high above no man's land. For these modern aces fly to war also, to a battle that never ends, the war against crime. High above the airport, the ships straighten out from their winding climb and streak for the sectors to which they've been assigned. At 5 minutes past 7, pilot Charlie Mace's monocoupe, having explored the jagged canyons of the Santa Catalina Mountains, is circling over the country north of Tucson when Mark Robbins, his passenger, taps him on the shoulder.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah?
Throttle her down. Looks like a car down there. See? By that clump of Palo Verde.
Yeah, I see it. Hold on, we're going down.
Sawyer's gray sedan, all right.
Gee, and not a mile from the city limits.
Start your spiraling, boy.
Got to get altitude first. Here we go.
Zooming up, Charlie Mace's climbs for altitude and then spirals down, keeping just above the Packard. In town, Deputies King, Getzweiler, and Shin on their way to headquarters in a police car see the spiraling ship and, wheeling around, speed north toward the city limits. In a very few moments, they have pulled up beside the gray sedan and warily get out of the police car.
Watch your step, boys. Can't tell who may be hiding back in the greasewood.
Better unlimber your guests.
Right.
Well, it's Sawyer's car. Let's look inside.
Nothing to go by here. No bloodstains, thank heaven.
Looks like kidnapping, all right. And apparently the transfer was made here. Look. Track of different sized tires and a shoe print.
Yeah, those tires are Riverside cords. I got a pair of them on my car.
Well, you better report back to headquarters, King, and get him to send the fingerprint man out. Getzweiler and I'll stay here on the spot.
Convinced by the discovery of the abandoned gray sedan that banker Sawyer had been kidnapped, Chief Dyer calls in Detective Clifford Cronow to discuss the next step in apprehending the criminals.
There's no doubt about it, Cliff. Sawyer's been kidnapped. And there's no doubt in my mind that it was a local job.
Yeah, what makes you think so, Chief?
Well, no outside gang is going to try to work a kidnapping in this country. It's too hard to make a getaway.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I figure from the way this whole job is pulled, whoever did it is pretty familiar with Sawyer's habits. A ransom note is sure to be sent, and a ransom note is the best clue we can get.
What do you propose to do?
Well, I want you to go to the post office and make an arrangement with Postmaster Ziff to place an undercover man over there to watch the local mail slot.
What if they mail the ransom from a letterbox?
Well, I'm gambling they won't. I've got a hunch that they'll mail it to the post office so they'll get quick action.
Okay, what's the plan?
Well, get the postmaster to detail a clerk to watch the local chute from the inside while the undercover man watches from the lobby. Then rig up a card on a string up in that grill above the stamp window. If a suspicious-looking letter is dropped into the local chute, addressed to Mrs. Sawyer or to any official of the bank, the postal clerk will drop the card from the grill. And you undercover men, well, your man there can have the party and the mail letter before he gets away.
Yeah, sounds like it might work.
Okay, get on.
But the ingenious scheme of the chief fails to work when a gust of wind blows the card out of the grill, and in the ensuing confusion, an unseen person mails a ransom demand addressed to Fred J. Stewart, president of the bank. Stewart calls the chief of police to his office at once.
Well, Chief, this looks pretty serious.
What do they want?
Read that letter, Miss Parker.
Yes, sir. The letter says, "This is to warn you that we want $60,000 Saturday night, or Gordon Sawyer will be killed. We have killed and robbed other people. Another killing is nothing to us. If this note is made public at any time, we will kill Gordon Sawyer anyway, so you had better obey instructions. At 8:30 Saturday night, you are to start from the corner of Stone and Congress with $60,000 in cash and unmarked money. You must come alone. You will drive out the Silver Bell Road and turn north. Then continue until you see a white flag stuck in the side of the road. Stop, and you will be approached by one of our men. If you see no white flag after you have gone as far as Rattlesnake Pass, turn around and drive out the Bear Canyon Road until you come across the white flag. There will be no other warning. You had better do as you're told if you or his friends ever want to see Gordon Sawyer alive again. Sawyer will sign this to show that he is alive and all right, but he won't be very long unless you do as directed."
Thank you, Miss Parker.
Is that his signature on the bottom?
Oh, yes, that's Gordon's signature, all right. And this is terrible, Chief. We must get Gordon back unharmed at any cost.
Of course.
The bank stands ready to pay the sum they ask.
Well, it may not be necessary, Mr. Stewart. Deputies King and Getzweiler are following the trail of the kidnapped car this very moment.
It is no easy task for the two deputies to follow the tire treads over the hard, sun-baked caliche of the desert roads. But straining their eyes, Deputies King and Getzweiler laboriously trail the escape car from the transfer point along the well-traveled highway into the lonely DeMoss Petrie Road, and finally into a lane that leads to the Adkins Ranch. They sense that they are reaching the end of their search.
Go slow, Jack. Something's moving in the bushes ahead.
Maybe cottontail hunters.
Yeah, and maybe not.
Uh-oh. Look.
What?
Two guys sweeping away the tracks in the road.
They've seen us. They're running away. Try to head them off.
Okay.
They ducked into that mesquite. Pull up. They're coming. 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 They're coming
Come on out of there. We're police officers.
Get behind that car, Getz. They want to shoot it out.
Down there plugged me that last time.
See what I'm moving. There.
Better save your ammunition until you're sure of hitting something, Jack. We didn't bring much with us.
Yeah, I know.
Look out, they're making a break for that ranch house, Jack. Let them have it.
Well, that didn't do much good. You get a good look at him?
I sure did.
We better get back to the telephone and call for reinforcements. I've only got a couple of rounds left.
Okay, let's go.
A posse quickly arrives in answer to the two deputies' call. And cautiously, the band of armed men approach the Adkins ranch, expecting to be met by a fusillade of bullets. But the only greeting they receive is the fierce barking of a cur dog which Getzweiler and King had seen loping down the road after the two retreating men.
Seems kind of deserted now.
Yeah, but we'd better be careful.
Yeah, who are the people who live here? You know, Dallas?
Yeah, the Adkins. Old Colonel Adkins owns the place. His son Cliff has served time.
Well, let's get inside and see if there's any sign of Sawyer.
Yeah.
You fellas, keep your eyes peeled outside here. You see anything moving, shoot first and ask questions afterwards.
Okay, Getz.
All right.
Well, they sure left in a hurry.
Yeah, look here. Buckwheat cakes, coffee on the table, still warm.
Yeah, from the way all the clothing thrown around, I guess they just packed pajamas and a toothbrush and scrammed.
I guess so.
Well, no signs of Sawyer in here. Let's take a look outside.
All right.
Anything doing out here, boys?
Hey, wait a minute. There's some stuff leading off toward the river.
Well, you better follow him, Jack. Bob Woods, you go along with him.
Right. Hey, Dallas, take a look at that well over there.
Where? Oh, yeah. What about it?
Looks to me as though those mesquite logs have just been thrown over the top of it recently.
See, it does at that. Let's take a look.
All right.
Yeah. That's an old caved-in well, but the covering has just been put on it.
Do you suppose they threw Sawyer down there?
I don't know, but we'll soon find out. Here, give me a hand with this log.
Okay. Easy. I got this.
There. Now we can get a look. Got a flashlight?
Yeah.
Good heavens!
Looks like a dead man down there.
It's Sawyer, all right. They've killed him.
I'm being quiet. I haven't done anything.
Oh, thank goodness he's alive. Gordon, it's me, Dallas Ford.
Be careful, Dallas. Those fellas are desperate.
Oh, there's no one around here now but the posse. Come on, we'll help you up. Here, give me a hand. You take the other one, Get.
All right.
Up.
There, I got him. Over.
There we are. Are you all right, Gordon?
Yes, I'm all right. Have they gone?
Yes, Gordon.
I guess I fainted when they threw me down there. Oh, they told me to keep quiet or they'd kill me. I didn't know anything till I heard you up here. And I was afraid you were in danger, too.
No, everything's all right now, Gordon. Now, don't try to talk. The first thing we got to do is to get you home to your wife.
After he had been reunited with his wife and had an opportunity to rest, Gordon Sawyer tells his story to Chief Dyer and Mrs. Sawyer.
When I drove the car into the garage Thursday night after lodge meeting, two men stepped out from behind the door, pointed guns at me, and told me to get in the back of the car, lie face down, and not make any noise. Then they backed the car out.
Didn't you hear me call when the car backed out of the driveway, Gordon?
Yes, dear, but naturally I couldn't answer. I was afraid they'd kill me.
Well, where'd they take you next?
Well, we drove for some time. Then they transferred me to another car. And while we were bumping along rough roads, they blindfolded me. We got to a house, they loosened my blindfold a bit and made me sign a note demanding $60,000 ransom. Then they tightened the blindfold and put me on some blankets on the floor where I spent the night. This morning, they gave me griddled cakes and coffee. Then I heard some shots, and they ran back and threw me in the well. You know the rest of it.
How many voices did you hear?
There were 3. One was a woman's.
A woman?
Yes.
Well, that might be Billy Adkins.
Who's she?
Old Colonel Adkins' daughter. Getzweiler thinks he recognized Cliff Adkins' son as one of the men who ambushed him. Huh. We're going to bring those two in and question them.
Billy Adkins, pretty daughter of the old colonel, is brought in for questioning. And beyond admitting that she spent Thursday night at the ranch, she refuses to talk. In view of this admission and Mr. Sawyer's statement that he was held at the ranch all night, a charge of kidnapping is filed against her brother, and Billy is held as an accessory after the fact. For more than a week, an intensive search is conducted for Cliff Adkins. And then on the 14th of February, a tip comes that sends 2 carloads of officers out through the desert to the deserted Yuma mine. Arriving there, they are met by Joe Portman, who tends a goat herd on the mine site.
Hello, Joe. How things? Can't complain, Dallas. How's the policing business?
Fine and dandy.
What brings you out this way?
Oh, nothing. Just looking for a Mexican who's been breaking in houses.
Ain't seen no Mexicans armed here.
Well, you know how it is. We got to look like we're working.
Yeah, sure.
What you got on the tarpaulin here, Joe? Looks like a car.
Yeah, that's a car, all right. Got me a new one.
Oh.
Yeah, I have to keep it covered so that goats get on top.
Yeah? Well, let's take a look at it. Help me with this top, Farrar.
Sure.
Just what I expected. Same tire tread, body scratched, wheels caked with dirt.
That's Adkins' car, all right.
What about this, Joe?
I don't know what you mean. It's my car.
Come on, Joe, let's have the truth.
There's someone moving in the shack.
Cover the door, Farrar. Hey, you. Come out of there. Come on. All right, Farrar, we'll break it in.
Hey, don't shoot. I'll give up. I'm glad you come. I'm afraid.
You're afraid of what?
Those 2 guys that kidnapped Sawyer.
What 2 guys?
A couple of guys I met when I was doing time at Prescott. They moved in on me last week. They kidnapped Sawyer, and they said they bumped me out if I told, and I ran away after they escaped. I've been hiding here ever since. I'm afraid of them.
Oh, come on, Adkins. You don't expect us to believe that?
Oh, it's true. It's a gospel truth.
This your car out here?
Yeah, that's it. It's registered to my wife in California.
Well, Cliff, that's the car Sawyer was kidnapped in. The tires are the same as the tread on the road, where Sawyer was transferred from his car.
Yeah, but these guys borrowed my car.
Oh, yeah? And the footprint beside Sawyer's packet fits your shoes that we found at the ranch.
No. I didn't do it. Those shoes belong to one of the other guys. I'm innocent, I tell you, I'm innocent. You can't pin this on me.
Story was blasted to bits at the trial when its Tuscon shoemaker identified the shoes as a pair on which he had put rubber heels for the accused. And when Deputy Getzweiler made a positive identification of Adkins as one of the men who ambushed him and King at the ranch on May the 31st. Judge Ferris pronounced sentence on Adkins would send him to the penitentiary for life. Thus, rapidly and efficiently did the Tucson Police Department and the Arizona courts dispose of the first kidnapping in Arizona's history.
Thank you, Chief Willard. And now, here we are back in a Rio Grande service station.
Your oil level's low. You need a quart.
What kind do you have?
You wouldn't want to use cheap oil in a fine car like this.
Yes, I do hate to buy bulk oil. I've been reading about canned oil until I'm afraid to buy oil in bulk.
Well, here's a canned oil. The most famous 25-cent oil in the world. You've heard of it. Sinclair Opaline.
Sure, I've heard of Sinclair oil. I didn't know I could get a quart can for 25 cents.
Well, you get more than a quart. There's 2 ounces extra in every can of Sinclair Opaline.
Well, if I can get an oversized quart of Sinclair oil for a quarter, I'm sold. That Sinclair name satisfies me.
It's a great oil, sir. It's internationally famous. Sinclair has built the world's largest independent oil business with this Opaline oil. It's the finest 25-cent oil there is, and it's a better oil than any Western oil at any price. You'll find it featured at every station that sells Rio Grande cracked gasoline.
Tucson police calling all cars, attention all cars. Cancellation broadcast 63 regarding a kidnapping. Suspect in this case now in custody. That's all.
Calling All Cars is written and produced by William N. Robeson. This is Frederick Lindsley saying good night for the Rio Grande Oil Company.
And there you see what happens sometimes when you have non-professionals doing that who get all nervous. But that happens. 89 years ago, February 5th, 1935, Calling All Cars here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage at classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can find our social media links, and you can also buy me a coffee. And any of your purchases there help support the podcast. The Buy Me a Coffee also helps support the podcast. Okay, we're going to go back 79 years, February 5th, 1945, for an episode of the Signal Oil program, The Whistler. That's next.
They say neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night. Ow! What?
Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night will hold up your mail. But you can if you don't use zip codes. Be sure to use zip code on every letter and package you send, and always include your own zip code in your return address. That way, others will have it when they write to you. Remember, mail moves the country, and zip code moves the mail.
Oh, trash cans, dogs. At least a zip code.
One of the good things and one of the bad things at being at the mountains at 6,500 feet in the mountains of northern Nevada is that some mornings, what should have been just very little snow turns out to be 3 or 4 inches. And that makes getting out the door in the morning a challenge. But we do it here. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues now with an episode of the West Coast program, The Whistler, from 79 years ago, February 5th, 1945. Murder is legal.
Signal gasoline. Let every traffic signal remind you you do go farther with Signal. Yes, you do go farther with Signal. The Signal Oil Company and your neighborhood signal dealer bring you another curious story by The Whistler. Tonight, murder is legal.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak. This is the Strip, playland of Hollywood. Here are the most elegant gaming houses and nightclubs in the Western Hemisphere. Here are the sumptuous apartments of the great and near great, the idols of 1 million adolescent girls. In the apartment of David Faraday, hero of costume epics and courtroom scandals.
Mr. Faraday. Wake up, Mr. Faraday. It's time for you to go to Mr. Carstairs' party. Come on now, Mr. Faraday. It's just me, Jenny O. There aren't no reporters here. I hope we're not, boss. Boss, I'm coming in. I know you're tired, boss, but you just gotta get up. Trial's all over. Boss, are you all right? That's blood there. Oh, Lord, help me. Mr. Faraday, you've been shot. You're dead.
Yes, in the elegant apartment of David Faraday on the Sunset Strip, the body of the screen's swashbuckling hero grows colder. Only 2 blocks down the street, and the guests are arriving at a party given in his honor. A party given by the most important man in Hollywood, a man who's never been in front of a camera.
Oh, Clifford, darling, am I late? Oh, Putty was an angel of patience. I spoiled the last 3 takes in my hurry to get here, didn't I, Putty? I'm so anxious to see David, and he won't answer his phone. He hasn't talked to anyone since the trial, even me, his fiancée, and I've been calling him all afternoon. Clifford, what do you do? Hide your winning clients so that the jury can't change its mind? I've been frantic, haven't I, Poochie?
If you don't mind, Miss Lorraine, my name is Puchowitz. Puchowitz, not Poochie.
Oh.
What would my wife think?
Poochie, dear, your wife hasn't had a thought since she married you.
Since before, maybe, huh?
I wouldn't worry about David, Madeline. He was very tired and probably went home to sleep. The trial was very wearing. However, I think that he'll be here.
It was very close, wasn't it? I mean, the girl's story was quite sound. But of course, we all knew that David would get off. With you for a lawyer, how could he miss? After all, you wouldn't want to spoil a perfect record of acquittal.
Well, that's really up to the jury. But it was a difficult case. So much publicity complicates any defense.
Hello, Madeline.
Oh, Charlotte.
Oh, darling, you look ravishing. That is for a girl whose fiancé almost went to prison. Why, if it had been Tommy, I wouldn't have slept a wink.
Oh, Mr. Carstairs, you know Miss Mannering of Colossal.
No, I haven't had the pleasure.
Oh, you're the famous lawyer Clifford Carstairs. Oh, I've heard so much about you. No one you have ever defended has ever been convicted. Oh, of course, Madeline. How silly of me. Naturally, you didn't worry with Mr. Carstairs defending David.
Well, you flatter me. The evidence freed him, not I.
Tell me, Mr. Carstairs, is it merely evidence that frees all your clients?
Naturally. However, the most important factor is careful preparation. Every contingency must be taken care of ahead of time.
Of course.
In a sense, the verdict is in before the case ever comes to court.
Then it must be confusing if the criminal messed up the crime to start with. I mean, before you could take a hand in arranging the evidence.
Well, naturally, Miss Mannering, I try to avoid taking cases that are too confused.
Oh.
However, no case is perfect legally. That is because no defendant ever considers the legal angle before the circumstances arise. The perfect crime will never be committed until a lawyer can handle the chain of evidence from the beginning of a crime, even before its commission. But, of course, that is impossible.
Unless he were to commit a crime himself.
That would hardly be ethical, Miss Mannering. Besides, he'd be unable to defend himself, and thus the whole theory breaks down. But before we embark upon our life of crime, Miss Mannering, you'll find the bar in the library at the end of the hall.
Oh, I...
My honor, Miss Mannering.
Oh, what a delightful European bow, Mr. Puchowitz.
Wait, Madeline.
Yes, Clifford?
You don't seem very happy. I thought this was to be our night.
Our night to celebrate David's acquittal? Don't be absurd, darling.
Oh, what could I do, Maddie? My professional reputation was at stake.
Our love, too, darling. Don't forget our love. That was at stake. It was me or your reputation. In Kansas City, I think you would have chosen differently.
Kansas City was 10 years ago, Maddie. Isn't it enough that I still love you without having to give up everything that I've gained to prove it?
Oh, Cliff, you were my only hope. If David had been convicted today, I would have been free, and we could have been married. For the first time since my divorce from Jack, I was going to be happy with you. But this way... Oh, you won your case, but I've lost mine.
No, I've lost too, Madeline.
What?
I've loved you for a long time, even in Kansas City. Even when you left me to marry Jack.
Need we talk about that now?
Yes. Jack was the handsomer, the younger, the more promising. So you married him, even loving me. And still, I loved you.
Your love has strange ways of showing itself, then and now. You set yourself out to break my husband. You had him disbarred, ruined his career. Was that love?
Well, I knew you'd leave him after he was no longer a shiny new prize.
I didn't leave Jack. He left me. After the automobile accident, the night you had him disbarred. He said he didn't want me to be saddled with a cripple, so he just disappeared. I couldn't come back to you then. That would have been crawling, and I won't crawl for any man.
But you'd crawl to David to save your career, to keep your beautiful face in front of the public.
That's something else. Something you could have saved me from if you'd loved me, instead of having David acquitted today.
You'll be quite safe now, Maddie. You see, David is dead.
You mean you...
Something like that. Yes.
With the prologue of Murder is Legal, the Signal Oil Company brings you another of the strange tales of the Whistler. Now, before we return to our story, I'd like to ask you a question. Are you planning on repainting your car before the day arrives when you can replace it with a new one? If you're like most motorists, your answer is not if you can make the present finish last out the duration. Well, right there is where your Signal gasoline dealer can be of real service to you. He now features the famous Venus one-application auto polish. In one easy operation, Venus removes dingy road film to bring out the true color of your car, and then leaves the renewed finish sparkling under a protective glaze of carnauba and ozosirite, the hardest and most waterproof waxes known to science. Made by the Whiz Company, nationally famous for finer quality automotive products, Venus Polish is just one of your Signal dealer's complete line of Whiz items to make your car look and run better longer. Next time you're at your neighborhood Signal gasoline dealers, look over his Whiz products. You'll find motor rhythm, metal polish, car wax, radiator cleaner, upholstery cleaner, and many other upkeep items. Like all your Signal dealer services, Whiz products have proven their ability to help your car last longer and go farther. And now, back to the Whistler.
Well, Madeline Lorraine, the glamorous picture star, has just heard the startling news that David Faraday, her fiancé, is dead. What makes it more startling is the fact that Clifford Carstairs, the famous lawyer, has practically admitted to her that he murdered David, his client.
It's so funny.
Did you understand me?
Yes, Clifford, darling. David has been murdered.
I thought you'd be pleased, but...
I am, darling. I am. It's just that it's so funny. So horribly funny. You wouldn't risk losing a case, but you'd risk this crime. Oh, you're a born comedian, Cliff. Pucci should hire you.
Stop it, Madeline.
Why? Don't people laugh when they're happy? My career's safe. So's yours. Our love is safe. Why, it's wonderful. But what about the police? You and me.
Are we safe, too? Yes, I think so. The police will discover that Jack, your former husband, committed the murder.
Jack? But I don't understand. Is he here? How could he...
Oh, one at a time, sweet. Yes, he's here in Los Angeles. I saw him last week. I had occasion to cut through Pershing Square on my way to see a client. He was sitting with his wooden leg propped on a bench feeding the pigeons. He's changed, Madeline. I hardly recognized him. He didn't see me, but I made inquiries. I can find him when I need him.
But I still don't understand. If you killed David, Well, you did, though. So why should the police...
Very simple. An elementary matter of preparation.
Oh.
Faraday was shot with a gun registered to your husband. You've had it for years, but no one will know that. Also, there are the marks of a peg leg on the balcony. The room was broken into. He had plenty of motive, and besides, I think I can persuade him to confess. That is, if I make it sufficiently profitable.
No, Cliff. No, we can't do it. Between us, we wrecked Jack's life. We can't make him pay for our crimes, too.
Don't be silly. He won't be convicted. None of my clients ever is. Your glamorous friend was quite right. I've wanted to arrange my own crime, set the evidence beforehand, and I have. This is perfect, Madeline. It'll be a clear case of self-defense. With me as his attorney, Jack is a cinch for acquittal.
It's precious, Cliff. Darling, you're a genius. You arrange everything the way you want it, don't you? It's wonderful. And so funny. So terribly funny.
Yes, you've planned the perfect crime, haven't you, Mr. Carstairs? Madeline thinks it's very funny. Funny and clever, Mr. Carstairs. Yes, Madeline Lorraine's husband, her first husband, that is a cinch for acquittal. That is, if he cooperates. And he will. Won't he, Mr. Carstairs? You know he will.
Hello, Jack. Sit down. Glad to see you again.
I'll bet. You were pretty sure of me, weren't you, Carstairs? Pretty sure I'd come when you sent for me.
You came, I see.
The great Carstairs wins again. Someday you'll overstep yourself like I did. I'm waiting.
Why be so bitter, Jack? I've always liked you personally. You know that.
Sure, you only broke my career, had me disbarred for one little slip. Then I get drunk and lose a leg in Madeline.
That's all there was in my life, my career and Madeline. I'd be dead now, but for two things. Watching her rise in the world and waiting for you.
Well, that was a long time ago, Jack. Why don't you forget it? I did what I had to do. There was no rancor in it. It was nothing personal. Won't you believe that?
Maybe. How is Madeline? I guess she's going to marry that Hollywood heel. Too bad, Carstairs. Looks like you lose out again. I've got to hand it to you, though. You protected him. I hadn't thought you had so many scruples, Carstairs.
He was my client. I had to protect him. I have another client now, though, and I need your help.
Well. I never thought I'd hear the great Carstairs yelling for help. You should have thought of that before you had me disbarred. Sorry, chum.
Well, I told Madeline you wouldn't be any good to us, but she insisted that I contact you.
Why didn't you say so in the first place?
I didn't consider it was necessary. You know I see Madeline. I know you still love her.
The story, please.
You do, don't you, Jack?
A story, fast and good.
Well, Madeline, like all figures in the public eye, had some things in her past that the fans might not have approved of. It was essential that she keep them a secret.
So?
Well, David Faraday knew of these things and was using them to blackmail her into marrying him. Late this afternoon, she met him at his apartment. The colored boy was out. No one saw her. They quarreled. She had that old gun of yours in her bag. She shot him, Jack.
The poor fool. Poor little fool. Is there any chance for her, Carstairs?
If it comes to open court, not one in a million. I'd do what I could, naturally, but there's not one chance in a million of getting off with less than life.
How can you keep it from coming to court?
By acting fast. They haven't found the body yet. When they do, the newspapers will be howling for a conviction. It's election year, and the DA will take a fast confession and not ask too many embarrassing questions. That's where you come in.
Wait a minute. I'm not burning for anyone else's murders, wooden leg and all.
I'm not asking you to burn for it, Jack. You see, I know this DA. He won't even fight a self-defense plea if it looks good at all. With Maddie, there's too much supplemental evidence. They'd have to make it second degree. With you, it's a cinch. I'm Faraday's lawyer. My dictaphones will show his reactions to your being in town, how he wanted to send for you, how he was afraid of you. Clear-cut self-defense. Oh, Madeline wouldn't have a chance. But I'd stake my reputation, even my life, on getting you off scot-free.
What makes you think they'll believe this confession? Even if he did have a motive for getting me there.
In the first place, that gun was registered to you. In the second, I've checked over the scene. He had a paper knife in his hand. I arranged the room to look as if a fight had occurred. Also, there are marks of a peg leg in the soft ground outside his balcony.
In other words, if I don't cooperate...
The police will probably pick you up anyway, precisely.
And if I do?
I am empowered to offer you the sum of $10,000.
15.
I won't haggle.
Sorry, Carstairs, I can't see it. It's a fine deal. I go to the chair for Madeline's murder, and you pay $15,000 over to my widow. Maybe you'll even throw in a crypt at the cemetery, but it's not enough.
Let me restate my position, Jack. Perhaps I didn't make it clear. On the one hand, you confess the circumstances of Faraday's death, and I'll guarantee to get you off. On the other, I tip off the district attorney, and 90-1 they indict you anyway. Without my support, I don't think you'd have much chance of acquittal, especially when the blackmail attempts that you made on Faraday come out.
I never tried to blackmail Faraday, and you know it.
No, as his lawyer, I'd be in a position to know these details, don't you think?
Did I ever tell you I hated your guts?
Frequently, in Kansas City.
I didn't say it loud enough. Well, Carstairs, you've got me over a barrel. There's not much I can do.
Good.
But I want it in writing.
Don't you think that's too risky? And besides, it wouldn't be worth the paper it's written on.
Maybe, but that way I know you won't double-cross me. I'd trust Maddie if she were in it alone. With you, I want a contract, you might say. Something to hold over your head.
Very well. We'll make it out right now.
Okay, you phrase it, but put in the money and that you guarantee my acquittal.
We don't trust one another or even like one another. But in this, you have my word.
Well, Carstairs, we're partners now. We've a contract for crime. Shall we drink to our new venture? And to how much I hate your guts?
Yes, a good legal partnership. Practically a corporation, if you add Madeline. And 3 such brilliant people, too. They're sure to make a go of it. Wouldn't you say?
What? Who's there?
Quiet, it's me, Jack.
Jack. Oh, darling. I mean, it's 4 in the morning, and I have to be on the set at 6. Can't you wait, Jack?
I heard what you said the first time. Let me in the French door.
Jack, you haven't come near me for 10 years.
Tonight I thought maybe you needed me.
I do, Jack. I have for a long time. I sent for you often. You never came.
I wanted you to have your chance, as I didn't have mine. You've got everything now. You're a big star. You've a fine home, jewels. What more could you want?
Well...
Safety. I'll give you that, darling. Was what Carstairs told me true?
Yes.
Poor kid. But nothing's going to happen. I just wanted to tell you that. This is one case Carstairs won't dare lose.
I know. But that's not what I want.
What do you want, Maddie?
Do I have to tell you, Jack? After all this time, do I have to say it?
Yes.
I guess I don't belong in Hollywood, Jack. I'm a fake. I go around being Madeline Lorraine, hard, indiscreet, sophisticated, just as Hollywood as I can be. But underneath, I'm just Mrs. John Tennant from Kansas City.
Do you mean that, Madeline?
Don't you know when you're being proposed to? And don't say this is so sudden. Not now.
Darling.
I've tried so hard to be tough. I thought I was. Until tonight. And when this happened, I couldn't put on the act any longer.
What about Carstairs?
Oh, he wants to marry me when this is over.
And you?
Not anymore. You know what I want.
All right, Madeline. If that's what you want, truly. Tell no one anything. We'll go through with this. When it's over, I'll have $15,000. We'll go away someplace. Brazil's a good spot. And start over. 10,000 should see us through.
I thought you said 15,000.
I need the rest. I have a debt to pay. A 10-year-old debt.
Yes, you'll go through with it, Jack. The papers next morning have the story. David Faraday, swashbuckling movie star, was killed in a drunken brawl. His confessed slayer is John Ternant, ex-husband of actress Madeline Lorraine. Ternant allegedly came to the star's apartment at the request of Faraday's lawyer to sign an affidavit regarding his divorce with Miss Lorraine, which took place in Kansas City 8 years ago. An argument ensued, and Faraday, according to Ternant, seemed intoxicated, attacking with a paper knife. In the struggle that followed, the actor was killed. The renowned Clifford Carstairs is representing Ternant.
Gentlemen of the jury, the defense rests, firm in the knowledge that no American would convict a man for defending his life from a foul murder.
You were wonderful, Cliff.
Thanks, Maddie. Let's walk down the hall a minute. It's good policy for me to leave the room now, and besides, I want to talk to you.
All right, Cliff. Well, Cliff?
What?
Well, you wanted to walk and talk, you said.
Well, yes, Well, I want the date for our wedding set, Maddie.
Oh, don't rush me so, Cliff.
Rush you? Why, it's been 2 months since David's death. You just keep putting me off. You think that's fair, Maddie?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't given it very much thought.
Well, you still love me, don't you? That hasn't changed, has it?
Well, everything changes, Cliff. There's nothing certain, except, of course, a Carstairs verdict. You always win, Cliff. You always win, except this time.
Well, I told you the verdict was a cinch.
No, I didn't mean the trial. I meant me. You lose me.
Oh, Maddie, you can't do this to me.
I don't see that I'm doing anything to you. I'm just doing something for me. Not for Putchewitz, nor my public, nor David, nor you, Just me. I'm going back to Jack, Cliff. After the farce in there is over, we're going to go away and start all over.
Oh, Madeline, you owe me more than this.
Do I? I'm sorry, Cliff.
I only killed a man for your sake.
That was your idea, Cliff, not mine. And then that night, when you told me about it, and about how you were going to use Jack to protect us, well, it was suddenly so horribly funny that I laughed. Remember? In that instant, faced with a murder, I realized what I really wanted. And it wasn't you at all, Cliff. It wasn't Hollywood or my name in lights, either. It was Jack. And going back to being simple. Being just his wife. And it was so tragically funny.
It doesn't amuse me, Maddie. What if I were to expose your connection with Faraday in the killing?
Remember the contract you signed with Jack, dear. You can't touch him without putting yourself in the chair. As for me, well, I don't want my public anymore. They can think what they please about me. I'm a different woman, Cliff, than the one who came to your party that night. And if I've been foolish, I'll atone for it. And that's my answer, Cliff, and it won't change. I'm sorry. The great Carstairs has lost this verdict.
But that's not all of this strange story. The Whistler will be back to tell you what really happened. Meantime, I want to answer a question which, judging by the number of inquiries, must be puzzling a lot of drivers today. It's this. Since certain gasoline ingredients have gone to war, aren't all of today's gasoline the same? No, indeed. If you've tried many brands in your car, you've already noticed a difference in performance, and I'll tell you why. Each oil company has its own refining method for its own brand of gasoline. Well, as thousands of Western drivers who keep a close record of their gasoline mileage know, the Signal refining method has for years been famous for its extra mileage. Signal is frank in telling you that with certain ingredients reserved for fighting planes, Signal can't promise all the brilliant performance you enjoyed with pre-war Signal gasoline, and which you'll again find in further improved Signal post-war gasoline. But the name Signal still stands for the finest quality gasoline that can be made. And Signal still places the emphasis on mileage. That's why, with gasoline rationed, Signal Go Farther gasoline is more than ever your best buy today. If you haven't tried Signal Go Farther gasoline in your car, there never was a better reason or better time for getting acquainted with your neighborhood Signal gasoline dealer. And now, back to the Whistler.
Well, of course, Jack was acquitted. You won again, Carstairs. Everything turned out just as you said it would. Except, of course, Madeline. You killed a man for nothing, but it was a perfect crime. The evidence was arranged as only a lawyer could do it. But then Jack was a lawyer, too, once. You know what a good lawyer with, shall we say, $5,000 can do, don't you, Mr. Carstairs? 1,000 here and there to the proper people, a tip-off to the police. You've done it often enough yourself. A frame-up, they call it, don't they?
Hello, Carstairs. Remember me, Reynolds, District Attorney's Office? I want to ask you a few questions.
Well, sit down.
Thank you.
Always glad to help you, boys.
Good. Then answer this one. Why did you kill David Faraday?
What?
The colored man says you came in that afternoon. Says you paid him to say he was out. Says he was scared to talk before.
Why, that's ridiculous. He wasn't anywhere around.
Then you admit you were there.
I admit nothing.
How about the gunsmith downtown? He says you paid him $1,000 to file that identification number on a gun. You haven't got a chance, Carstairs.
I've been framed.
It's an open and shut case. Funny, we'd never have thought of it. We got the tip from that guy you forced to confess to the crime. He skipped to Brazil. Afraid we'd make him stand trial for perjury. We wouldn't, though. In our business, we know how easy it is for a smart lawyer like you to frame a guy and force him into a confession.
I've been framed, I tell you. It was his gun.
Tell that to the judge. Maybe he'll believe you. No, Carstairs. Even you can't talk your way out of this one.
Yes, Carstairs. Framed. But in this case, framed for a murder you did commit.
Next Monday at 9 o'clock, the Whistler will bring you another strange tale. The curious story of the bells of Aberdoby. The Whistler is broadcast for your entertainment by the marketers of Signal gasoline and motor oil and fine quality automotive accessories, and by your neighborhood Signal dealer. This program, directed by George W. Allen, story by Robert Libet, music by Wilbur Hatch, is transmitted to our troops overseas by the Armed Forces Radio Service. Bob Anderson speaking. Remember to let every traffic signal remind you do go farther with Signal gasoline. Yes, you do go farther with Signal. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And yes, that was a different voice playing the Whistler itself. And I think that it might have been a World War II thing, because this was in the middle of World War II, or the tail end of World War II, February 5th, 1945, 79 years ago. The Whistler here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Tomorrow, Dangerous Assignment, Under Arrest, The New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Barry Craig Confidential Investigator, an episode of Inner Sanctum Mysteries, Jack Webb helmed 1 out of 7, and Lum and Abner. That'll be tomorrow. But right now, after this quick break, an episode of Gangbusters.
Excuse me, I'm a reporter. I'm doing a story about the post office, and I'd like to see how the mail is processed.
Be our guest, but better move back. Another truckload of mail is coming in. Hey, just pile it here, Harry.
Wow, that's a lot of mail.
Are you kidding? Those are just a few sacks. Dozens more come in every minute, loaded with letters that have to be sorted. The zip-coded ones are a snap. But those others, I'd like to talk to every person who sent a letter today without using zip code.
Yeah, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them their letters can hold up the works. Look, they'll be picking up the sorted mail in 5 minutes. Now, if every letter here had zip codes, they'd all make that pickup. But no, a lot of them will have to be sorted the old way. People who don't use zip codes are holding up the mail. Hey, that's a pretty good slogan. Why don't you print that?
I don't have to. You see, I'm a radio reporter. Your message is traveling all over the country right now.
No kidding. Say, can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Hello, Sally. Hi, Ben. Hi, Susie. Hi, Sam.
A quick thank you to so many of you who have said you miss us on your local radio station. I can tell you that I couldn't do the kind of show we do now if we were still on radio, because the shows would all be cut up and the continuity would be kind of hit and miss. But at least we can bring you the fully interrupted shows, and that's the part that a lot of you do enjoy. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of Gangbusters. This goes back 69 years to February 5th, 1955, and the case of the lost gun.
Watch for 56-year-old man, 5 feet 4.5 inches tall, weighing 172 pounds, with red and blue bulldog head tattooed on right forearm. More to follow on Gangbusters Clues.
Gangbusters, the only national program that brings you authentic police case histories, has asked Captain O. Thornton Link, former Chief of Detectives, Police Department, Danville, Virginia, to narrate by proxy tonight's case. Captain Link.
Thank you, and good evening, Gangbusters listeners. It was about 10 minutes to 9 on a pleasant winter morning of February 1954 when John Wilson approached the front door of the Danville, Virginia bank in which he worked. He inserted his key in the door. As he opened the door, he heard footsteps behind him.
I'm going in with you, Mr. Wilson. Oh? Oh, what are the mission?
passengers from the main bank?
Never mind the questions. Move on in.
Hey, be careful with that gun.
I'll be careful. Inside and shut up.
Look, what do you want from me? I'm just an employee.
Sure you are. You know the combination of the vault, too. You're going to open it for me.
But I don't know the combination.
Look, Mr. Wilson, I happen to know that you're the only person besides the manager who does know the combination. Now, you want me to use this gun?
All right.
Well, let's get to the vault. Go on, you lead the way.
You know you won't get away with this.
I ain't worried. Okay. Now open it. No funny business.
Here you are.
Okay, mister. I'll open the door myself.
Oh, you want to play rough, do you? Stupid hoodoo. I warn you.
Next time, maybe you'll listen.
Within a few minutes, gangbusters listeners, the lone bandit looted the bank vault of almost $35,000. About 5 minutes later, another employee arrived at the bank, found the injured man on the floor, and immediately called police headquarters. I answered the alarm, taking Sergeant Lewis Hance with me. John Wilson had not yet been moved, and I remember bending over to talk to him. How do you feel now, Mr. Wilson?
Not so good. My head, I'm so dizzy.
An ambulance is on its way. Should be here any minute.
I tried to stop him.
Can you remember what he looked like, Mr. Wilson?
Not too well. Oh, my head.
Maybe we'd better save this questioning for later.
No, I'll tell you what I can. He knew all about me and the bank. I never saw him before. He kept a muffler around his chin, but I'd recognize him again.
How tall was he?
Oh, about like me, short.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's the ambulance, Mr. Wilson. Good. I'll be down at the hospital to talk to you later.
Oh, Captain.
Yes, Lou, what did you find out?
There's someone outside that might be able to help us. A girl.
Okay, let's go see. Oh, wait a second. Here's the ambulance crew. It's right over there, Doctor, near the vault. Now, about the girl. Where'd you say she is?
We're waiting outside.
Good. Come on.
Here she is. You can talk to her yourself.
All right, everybody, step back.
Miss, this is Captain Link.
Oh, hello. Say, this is a big robbery, isn't it?
Pretty big.
When I went to the movies last week, there was a robbery in it. The police never were able to find out who did it.
Look, miss, suppose you tell the captain what you told me.
Oh, yeah. Well, my mother sent me to the store. We were going to have breakfast, and we didn't have any bread. I lived just a few doors away from the bank. Anyway, when I left the house, I noticed a red laundry truck parked across the street.
Well, what time was that, miss?
Well, I already told the sergeant. It was about 9:15.
Go on.
Well, when I came back from the store, maybe about 9:10, there was this big crowd, and the laundry truck was gone. And that's all.
I see. Well, thank you very much. You've been very helpful.
Oh, it's all right. Say, why don't you call in one of those private eyes? In this movie, I saw the police never could solve the case, but the private eye, he was able to tell them...
Yes, I saw it.
Oh.
If you'll give your name and address to the officer by the door.
Oh, sure.
Tom, take this girl's name and address, will you? And thanks again. Come on, Lou.
You're going to trace the truck?
Yeah. If we can find that driver, he might have seen something that'll give us the line on the holdup man. It's the beginning, anyway. There it is, Lou. House with a little white fence.
Right. It's a nice little place, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Come on.
I sure hope that laundry driver can tell us something.
So do I. I was counting on finding some fingerprints in the vault. Bet no luck.
Fancy door knocker, huh?
Don't know why people have them. No one ever uses them.
Decoration. My wife made me buy one, too.
says it makes the door look neater. I wonder if he's home.
I hear someone coming.
Yes?
Floyd Scarce?
That's right.
I'm Captain Link. This is Sergeant Hance.
Police?
That's right. May we come in a minute?
Well, yeah, sure. Come on in.
Thank you.
Yeah, what can I do for you? You selling tickets?
No, Mr. Scarce. We wanted to talk to you about the bank robbery this morning. You know about it?
Yes, I heard. So you'll have to excuse the apron. I was just fixing dinner. I always do my own cooking. What about the bank robbery?
Well, we found out you had your laundry truck parked not far from the bank, just a little while before the robbery.
Yes, I did. A matter of fact, I usually stop in the bank the first thing in the morning to get changed, but this was my pickup day, and I didn't need any. And any other day, and I might have been right there.
Did you see anything unusual? A man running, maybe? A car leaving in a hurry?
No, not a thing, Sergeant. My dog, he wants to come in. I'll let him wait. No, I was way down on Main Street before I even knew about the robbery. Wasn't there anyone else around?
No one but you.
Hey, that's too bad. I wish I could help you. I think I better let him in. We'll scratch half the paint off the door.
We'll be going anyway.
Thought I'd forgot you, boy, huh?
He's a nice dog.
Yeah, he sure is.
Well, thanks, Mr. Scarce.
Oh, that's all right. If I think of anything further, I'll get in touch with you.
Yes, do that. Goodbye.
Bye.
What do you think, Captain?
I don't know. Guess there was no reason for him to lie, yet something about him almost seemed too friendly, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I sort of sensed it myself.
What now? I'm not exactly sure. Better check on what hoods are in town. Find out what they were doing this morning. We better find out if anybody's spending more money than he earns, too.
Sounds like a lot of legwork.
Good for the muscles, Lou. Good for the muscles. The search was on, gangbusters listeners. Local, state, and federal authorities combined forces in a roundup of all suspicious characters and all possible leads. Roadblocks were set up, and planes of the Civil Air Patrol flew over backwoods areas hoping to spot any automobiles that deliberately avoided the blocks. 8 days went by, during which several leads were followed and then dropped as false. Then, in a small restaurant on one of Danville's side streets...
Hey, you over there at the bar. Me? Yeah, come here a minute. What do you want? You hungry? Sure, I'm hungry. Why? Sit down here. Have a meal on me. What? Sit down and eat. What do you mean you're going to snake me? Sure. Be my guest. Sit down. You sure there's no catches? Go on. Order anything you like. Okay. I only got a quarter. I was just going to have a hamburger. I'll take the turkey. Say, what's the idea? This is a celebration? Yeah, sort of. I always said if I ever made a strike, I'd set up a big meal for some guy who needed it every night for a week. Oh, that's nice. That's real nice. I was hungry once, Buster. I know what it's like. Oh, sure thing. And what'd you do? A business deal come through? Why, you might say. Hey, waiter, bring this man the turkey. Yeah, I had a good business deal. And there'll be more coming, too. Ah, that's good. A nice guy like you. A nice guy like you, he should always make out.
All right, Mo. Let's see the captain now.
What do you want from me? What'd you pick me up
You'll
for?
find out. Just relax.
I didn't do nothing. I swear I didn't.
You can tell that to the captain.
You cops, you're all alike. You pick up a guy who's mind his own business. Big deal, Captain. What am I supposed to do, Bao?
Just take it easy.
Come in.
All right, Mo. You first.
Don't shove, that's all. Don't shove.
All right, sit down over there, Mo.
Hello, Mo.
Nice going, Mo. He does a better job of acting each time.
Well, you know how it is. A guy can't be too careful.
All right, Mo. Go ahead and spill what you know.
Well, it's like this. There's a guy. His name is Jerry Keaton. For the last week now, he's been spending a lot of dough. He even spent some on me. He said it was a business deal, but sounded kind of fishy to me. I thought you better know. You told me to be on the lookout.
About an hour later, Jerry Keaton was picked up in Danville's business section. He was soon in my office at police headquarters.
There you are, Keaton.
Thanks. I was real thirsty.
All right, you had your glass of water. Now let's start all over again.
But I told you guys are crazy dragging me down to headquarters. I didn't do anything.
Where'd you get the dough you've been flashing?
I earned it. Where do you think?
Come off it, Keaton. We checked. You haven't worked for 2 years.
But it's true.
Now listen to me, Keaton. You're in real trouble. The only way you'll get along is to tell the truth. Now, where'd you get that money?
All right, I'll tell you. I didn't want to say.
I'm listening.
An uncle of mine died in Australia and left me his fortune. He started out as a newsboy and worked his way up to...
Cut it out, Keaton. Now, you better listen. A man may die because of that holdup, and if he does, no Australian uncle is going to help you.
Sure.
Get him out of here, Lou. Turn him over to Kelly. Have him booked on suspicion.
All right. Come on, Keaton.
Look, you guys can't hold me. I don't know nothing about no bank job. I told you.
Detective Division, Captain Link. Oh, hello, Tom. Oh, what's that? I see. All right, thanks. Lou, can you come back here a moment?
Kelly's putting him in his cell right now, Captain. Might be our man, all right.
I'm not so sure now.
Why?
Just got a call from Tom Haynes. He just found out from a neighbor of his that his neighbor's brother-in-law lent a .32 automatic to a friend for some target practice. Never got it back. Friend said he lost the gun.
Well, what's that got to do with Keaton?
Just this. The name of the friend who first borrowed and then lost the gun is Skeers. Floyd Skeers.
Skeers, the laundry driver?
Mm-hmm. Our innocent friend, the laundry driver.
Back to Gangbusters in a moment. Tomorrow night, Lou Ayres plays the role of Sigmund Freud when the Radio Hall of Fame focuses a dramatic spotlight on the crisis of the famous scientist's controversial career. Hear how Dr. Freud faced his personal dilemma, whether to drown his curiosity about mental medicine and stay within the conventions of his day, or to follow his astonishing inclinations and court ridicule or worse from the established members of his profession. CBS Radio presents the Radio Hall of Fame tomorrow night on most of these stations with your host, Edward Arnold. Now, back to Gangbusters and Captain O. Thornton Link, formerly Chief of Detectives, Police Department, Danville, Virginia.
Once the unexpected information on Floyd Skeers was received, Gangbusters listeners, a new element had entered the case. Almost immediately, a check was begun on Skeers's background and financial conditions, and the next day in my office... Come in. What'd you find out, Lou?
Good deal, Captain. First, Skeers has always been a quiet, respectable guy. Nothing unusual about him.
Well, that's no help.
But that's not all. Just yesterday, he paid off a bank loan he's owed for a long time, and he bought himself a flock of new clothes.
Oh, he's spending money, too.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, just a minute. Detective Division, Captain Link.
Are you in charge of the detectives?
Yes, ma'am.
I told him I didn't want to talk to anyone but the man in charge.
I see. What can I do for you?
Well, I found a gun.
What's that?
A gun. I found a gun behind my house.
What kind of gun?
Oh, I don't know, a gun. Listen, are you sure you're the man in charge?
Yes, Let me have your name and address, ma'am. I want to come down to see you.
Here we are, Captain.
Yes. The woman out in front must be the one who phoned me.
Are you Captain Link?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I was getting real nervous with that gun around.
Where is it?
Oh, I didn't touch it. Wouldn't dare touch it.
That's very wise, ma'am. Now suppose you show me where it is.
All right. It's around behind the house. Come on, I'll lead the way.
Right, ma'am.
They didn't want to let me talk to you at first. But I always insist on talking to the man in charge. The way to get things done.
Nice lawn you have here.
Yeah. High school boy comes by and looks after it. Oh, you see that little brook behind the house? It's where I found the gun.
How'd you happen to find it?
Well, there's a place in the brook where I like to dip out water sometimes for the flowers, but it's all blocked up with twigs and things. I started to try to clear it out. Here we are. Isn't it pretty here?
Yes, ma'am. Where's the gun?
Oh, well, if you'll bend down here, this is where I was clearing out the twigs that's at the bottom.
Yeah, I see it. I'll get it out. Captain, go ahead.
Be careful. Don't point it at me.
Don't worry, ma'am, I won't. Here you are, Captain.
It's a 32.
You think someone lost it?
That's possible. Excuse me a minute, ma'am. Hello.
Yes, Captain.
Good day. This is just about 2 blocks from his house. What time does he get through with his route?
We ought to be home now.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's thank the lady and go pay Scarce a visit.
Yes?
Can we come in, Mr. Scarce?
Hi, the captain again. Sure. Sure, come on in.
Thanks.
Yeah, make yourselves at home. Want me to fix some drinks?
No drinks, Mr. Scarce. We want to talk to you.
Sure. Well, you might as well sit down.
We'll stand.
Oh.
Well, I'll sit down then. Tough day.
Now, what can I tell you? I think I gave you all the information I had, but if there's anything else...
There is. Ever see this gun before?
No, I never saw it before.
And then where's the 32 you borrowed?
Oh, you heard about that.
Yes, we did. Where is it?
I think I'll fix myself a drink.
I lost it. One day I had it, the next day it was gone. You sure you don't want a drink? No, thanks. I wanted to take some target practice. That's why I borrowed it.
Did you know the man at the bank says the gun used on him was a 32?
Oh, no, wait a
minute. And he
minute.
says that whoever held him up knew the bank's routine very well, especially their morning routine.
Look, I don't know anything about that holdup. Just what I told you, nothing more.
Then why did you try to hide the gun?
I didn't. I told you. I lost it.
In someone's backyard?
I don't know anything about it. Maybe somebody found it, and then maybe he dropped it in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
You got no right to question me like this. I haven't done anything.
Then you've got nothing to be afraid of, have you?
That's right. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Sit down, Mr. Scarce.
All right. Look, I'd be glad to help you if I could, but there's nothing I can do.
That's what you said before. Where's your telephone?
Right over there on the table. You can use it if you want.
Thanks. Lou?
Here, Cap.
Call the hospital. See if Mr. Wilson, the bank employee, is well enough to come down to headquarters for a lineup.
Right. Hey, what are you going to do?
Give you a fair chance, Scarce. You said you had nothing to do with that holdup. All right, I'll see if you're telling the truth. I'll see if John Wilson recognizes you.
You can't make me come down to headquarters. You'll have to arrest me to do that.
But that's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Scarce. You're under arrest. To this, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, I'm all right. I'm anxious to see the man apprehended.
I think we've got the right man for you. Sit down here, Mr. Wilson. I'll come out and get you as soon as we're ready for you.
Fine.
Oh, so there you are. How long is this farce going to go on?
Not much longer, Mr. Scarce. Who'd you get for the lineup, Lou?
3 of the boys, Haynes, Cook, and Jensen.
Good.
I got Jerry Keaton, too. I thought it'd be a good idea to have him in on this.
Fine. Where are they?
Waiting outside the other door.
All right, go bring him in.
Right. All right, come on in, fellas. You too, Keaton.
I'm getting tired of being pushed around
It'll
here.
be over soon. Come on, over this way.
All right. Now, you, Scarce, and you, Keaton, here's what I want you to do. These other 3 men are detectives. Wilson doesn't know any of them. They're all about the same height and general shape as the man we're looking for. I want you to line up with them, and when Wilson comes in, I want you to stand perfectly still. Understand?
Yeah, sure.
How about you, Scares?
Well, I understand, but I don't like it.
Not asking you to like it, I'm asking you to do it. Okay, get in line. Lou, get Wilson.
We're all set, Mr. Wilson. Good. Now, when we go in, you'll see 5 men. Look at them carefully and try to pick out the one that hit you over the head.
You sure it's one of them?
Well, you're the only one that can tell us that.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, Mr. Wilson. Here they are. Look at them carefully.
I don't have to, Captain. There he is. Right there. There's the one.
Keaton's pointing to Keaton.
He's crazy.
Are you sure, Mr. Wilson?
Yes. I'd never forget him. It's him, all right.
All right, thank you very much.
Is that all?
That's all for now. I appreciate your coming down.
It's all right. It's all right.
Thanks a lot, men. You can go, too. Keaton, stay where you are.
How about Skeers? Don't let him out of here.
It's eating you, Keaton.
I'm not taking the rap for both of us. That's what's eating me.
You mean Scares was in on it with you?
You bet he was. If I get set up, so does he. I'm spelling.
Oh, you dirty.
Hold it, Skeers. Hold it.
All right, Keaton. What's the story?
It was his idea. He knew the bank. He got the gun. He drove me to the bank in his truck. I went in, I pulled a job, and walked to the truck, and we drove away.
He's lying. I never saw him before.
Sure, you never saw me before. How's your dog? Do you still keep your liquor on that table in your living room?
All right. It's true.
What about the money, Scares? Where is it?
I'll show you. I'll take you to it. For a year, I planned it. Seemed so easy and so perfect.
Not perfect enough, Scares. It never is. Lloyd Scares led the detectives to a garage behind a vacant house located near his. There, beneath a thin layer of soil, the officers found a pillowcase bulging with the stolen money. The next day, March 1st, 1954, the grand jury returned indictments charging both men with armed robbery. They received speedy trials and were sentenced to long terms in prison, which they are now serving.
Thank you, Captain O. Thornton Link, former Chief of Detectives, Police Department, Danville, Virginia. And now, Gangbusters Nationwide Clues, broadcast every week to assist American police in their war against the underworld. Attention all citizens. Be on the alert for a convicted murderer, Patrick Eugene McDermott, wanted by the FBI for unlawful flight to avoid confinement. Listen carefully to his official description.
Age 56, 5 feet 4.5 inches, 172 pounds, brown hair, graying, medium complexion, may seek work as a hospital technician, machinist, barber, or composer of crossword puzzles. This fugitive has a 1-inch oblique scar over left eyebrow, tip of left index finger amputated, has tattoo of red and blue bulldog head, right forearm, has complete set of upper and lower dentures, which he may not be wearing, sometimes wears glasses, is interested in astrology, and composes crossword puzzles.
McDermott reportedly carries a snub-nosed revolver in right coat pocket. Consider him dangerous. Attention all citizens. Be vigilant for Herbert Bechtel, wanted by the FBI for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution for the crime of robbery. His official description.
Herbert Dennis Bechtel, age 37, 5 feet 7, 175 to 80 pounds, stocky build, brown hair, brown eyes, ruddy complexion, may seek work as a beekeeper or a dairyman. This man has a 2-inch scar on chin. Nail on left ring finger is marked. He has a 6-inch scar on back of left leg. Ball of his left heel has been amputated, causing limp. He may be wearing mustache and long sideburns and have hair dyed and artificially waved.
Caution. Bechtel may be armed and has reportedly stated that he will not be taken alive. He should be considered extremely dangerous. If you have any information concerning these clues, notify your local police, the nearest office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or gangbusters at once. Tonight's gangbusters case was dramatized by Art Wallace and directed by Leonard L. Bass, with Bob Haig, Maurice Tarplin, and Bryna Rayburn in leading roles. Gaylord Avery speaking. In the case of the jealous wife on Gangbusters.
Given the names of some of the people mentioned in that Gangbusters episode, I want to say that was produced in New York, because Maurice Tarplin, most of his work was in New York City, but I have no definitive proof, which explains why the show has a little different sound to it, if you will. Gangbusters, as it was originally broadcast 69 years ago today, February 5th, 1955, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Coming up next, an episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring a Johnny Dollar you haven't heard much, Bob Reddick. That'll be coming up next after the show had moved to New York City. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
The Postmaster General of the United States, W. Marvin Watson.
Each year, the mail load increases by billions of letters, parcels, and publications. To handle this tremendous volume of mail, we need a modern postal system, and we're working toward that goal. What can be done now? The easiest, fastest way to improve mail service is to use zip code. With zip code, mail can be sorted faster and more efficiently. Help yourself to better postal service. Use zip code.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, from 63 years ago, February 5th, 1961, the Who's Who matter, and Johnny Dollar goes to search out Johnny Dollar. You'll see what we're talking about in just a moment.
Johnny Dollar.
Dollar? Well, thank goodness.
Thank goodness for what?
Oh, the trouble I've had getting this number of yours.
How come?
Well, I finally had to call Mr. McCracken at Universal Adjustment Bureau. I found out from him that you're there in Hartford, Connecticut.
That's right.
Well, I thought you were going to drop by and pick up your check.
Was I?
Well, of course, you said you would.
Did I?
Well, of course.
Well, all right, but what's it for, and who are you?
Well, what's it for? Why, for your services in connection with that oil refinery investigation you made for us.
What oil refinery? When?
When? Well, last week.
What are you talking about, and who are you, sir?
Now, look here, Dollar. I'm Ted Beckham, Western Indemnity Company. Now, who else would be calling you regarding...
Ted Beckham?
Yes, of course.
Western Indemnity?
That's right here in Fort Worth.
Now, Mr. Beckham...
Now, I've okayed your expense account for that refinery investigation. The check is ready, and I just want to be sure that you pick it up.
Investigation?
Look, you being funny, Dollar?
There in Fort Worth?
Yes.
Texas?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Beckham...
Yes?
The only case I handled last week was right here in Hartford.
What?
The week before, I was in Little Rock, Arkansas.
No,
the one before that, I was also here in Hartford.
Dollar?
And before that, in L.A., California.
Look, you're Johnny Dollar?
That's me.
Well, you're not.
I'm not?
Well, of course not. How stupid of me. I should have realized you weren't Johnny Dollar the minute you picked up the phone.
Now, look, Mr.
Your voice, it's not one bit like Dollar.
Now, look, will you please listen
Oh, all right, you imposter. You've succeeded in making a fool of me.
This bird's off his rocker.
But believe me, if I had time, I'd have you tracked down and arrested for impersonating him.
Me?
Yes.
Impersonating?
Yes. For impersonating Johnny Dollar. Goodbye.
Hello. Hello. Well, same to you and many of them.
CBS Radio brings you Bob Reddick in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Western Indemnity Company, to the Greater Southwest Insurance Company, and maybe to Universal Adjustment Bureau. Anyhow, the following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the Who's Who matter. That wacky phone call from Texas, from a man, a company I'd never even heard of, accusing me of impersonating myself. I was about to pick up the phone again, call him back, and demand an explanation, but the phone beat me to it. Hello?
That's a pleasant sort of greeting. Pat McCracken, Johnny, Universal Adjustment
Oh,
Bureau.
Pat.
Did a man named Beckham reach you?
Well, he certainly did. Who is he?
All I know is that he's heading up an outfit called Western
Indemnity Company.
Yeah, that's right. It's in Fort Worth. It's one of the many new insurance outfits there in Texas, and, well, that's really just about all I know about it.
I see.
But Beckham seemed anxious to get in touch with you, so I gave him your number.
And
if you plan to go on down there, Johnny.
Well, I certainly do.
Well, fine, because I just got a call from Al Pinker at the Greater Southwest Insurance Office.
Al Pinker.
Yes, regarding an arson job there in Dallas. The Geary Brothers department store.
Go on.
So, if you can hop a plane right away and look it over before the ashes get too cold.
Pat.
But, of course, if this man Beckham has something that's going to tie you up, well, what do you think?
Don't give it a second thought, Pat. I'll handle them both.
Good.
Yeah, I'll kill two birds with one stone.
Fine.
Did I say kill?
What?
Well, I hope not. But who knows?
What?
Pat, I'll be in touch. Al Pinker in Dallas. Ted Beckham in Fort Worth. Expense account item 1, $98.05 airfare. The plane set down at the Amon Carter Field in Fort Worth. It was late in the afternoon. And item 2 is $10 even for a taxi for the 19-mile drive into the city, into the Western Indemnity Building. It was brand new, very modern, very small, and located on East Lancaster Avenue. Over the protest of a pretty young blonde secretary with pale blue eyes and well, I bullied my way into Beckham's office.
Yes? Who are you?
All right, now, Mr. Beckham, let's get a few things straight.
Now, wait a minute. I asked you, young man, who are you? What do you mean, barging in this way?
My name is Dollar, Johnny Dollar.
Don't be ridiculous.
Here are my credentials, including photograph and fingerprints. Here, look them over.
Huh? Well, now, this,
Well?
Why, you are Johnny Dollar. You were Johnny Dollar.
That's right.
And your voice, the same one I talked to over the phone early this morning.
Right.
But I made that call to Hartford.
That's right.
Oh, you were in Hartford then, huh?
Yes, but I am here now, and I would like to know what this is all about.
Well, that other young man who's been working with us did a couple of investigations for us.
You better tell me about him.
Why, he said that he's Johnny Dollar.
Oh, he did, huh?
And with that unusual name, there couldn't be two Johnny Dollars.
It's not likely.
But knowing all about you and your fine work over the years, well, when he came here and offered to undertake the two investigations, and there's a third one, and he did do a good job for us, Mr. Dollar.
He did, huh?
And yet, when I got his expense account, or that is, when I looked it over again after talking with you on the telephone, well, it kind of made me suspicious. The size of it, I mean, you see? Yeah. That expense account of his.
Well, tell me this, Mr. Beckham. Just why did you call me this morning?
Well, that was it. About the expenses for your... for his job on that refinery investigation. Now, he said he'd pick up the money here. He never had given me his address, and, well, I'd okayed the account, and the money was here waiting for him, and... but then, knowing so much about you, as I said, and contemplating the amount of his expense account...
So you tracked down my number in Hartford and called me?
Yeah.
To have me pick up the money?
Yes, and because I suddenly had a small suspicion, I mean because of the total of that expense account. Mr. Dollar...
All right, Mr. Beckham.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, Miss Carroll?
There's a Mr. Albert Pinker here to see you.
Pinker?
Send him in, Carol.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Who is Albert Pinker?
Greater Southwest Insurance Company. Al just happens to be the other reason I came all the way out here to Texas.
Johnny!
Hi, Al. Meet Ted Beckham, heads up this office.
Oh, glad to meet you, Ted.
Hi, Mr. Pinker.
Pat McCracken said you might come here first, Johnny, but listen, is whatever you're here for something that can wait?
Well, now, I'm not exactly sure.
Because if you can come on over to Dallas with me right away, this department store...
Wait a minute, the Geary Brothers department store, Mr. Pinker?
Yeah, that's right. You know about it?
Well, I certainly do. You see, we hold part of that insurance, too.
Oh?
As a matter of fact, this other Johnny Dollar, why, he's what?
Beckham, perhaps I'd better go on over there with Al.
Yes, but now, Dollar, this
Yeah, well, all right, now, just don't get yourself all lathered up. I'll check up on our little affair later.
Oh, good, but, what did Ted mean about another, well, that is...
Well, Al, it seems that I've come here to run down two people.
Two?
That's right. Your firebug, for one.
Yeah, Johnny?
And a guy named Johnny Dollar.
What?
February is observed as American Heart Month for the sobering good reason that heart diseases take more lives than any other cause of death. This month is set aside for an appeal for funds to support a growing research program, enlisting top medical and scientific minds in the battle to overcome untimely death. The results of past generosities have already been felt in hospitals and doctors' offices and in lives saved. New techniques in surgery now save countless lives daily, here and elsewhere, because you gave for experiment into the then mysterious area of heart penetration. The money you give this year may be directly instrumental in raising the annual quota of people made whole, of lives saved, of families spared tragedy. When your Heart Fund volunteer calls, be generous, for this is a moving, pressing cause. Give to help your Heart Fund. Help your heart and the hearts of those you love.
During the 30-odd mile drive from Fort Worth to Dallas, I told Al Pinker about my own little problem. About this somebody who was impersonating me. And was highly amused, which is more than I was. And then he told me about the arson job at Geary Brothers department store, and quite frankly, it sounded like something the police and a couple of private investigators working on would have been able to solve in short order. However, I agreed to look into it for him. He got me settled at the Statler Hilton, bought me cocktails and dinner, and then left me his car. Suggested I have a good night's sleep and contact the police department first thing in the morning. Well, I could have used the sleep all right, but instead, after he'd left, I decided to have a look-see at the remains of the department store before getting anyone else's opinion on the direct cause of the fire. It was in one of the new development areas far out on the edge of town. There was nobody about watching the place, so I proceeded to look around. It seems the building was a two-story affair. The fire had been pretty well contained on the second floor. A lot of damage had been done to the furniture section, household goods and appliances, that sort of stuff. Most of the roof was gone, and I found I had to be careful not to fall through several badly charred spots on the floor. Foolishly, I'd forgotten to bring along a flashlight. And although there was a moon, I had a problem locating the exact spot where the fire started, or rather where it was set. But as I shoved aside a piece of fallen timber that blocked my way into what was obviously a storeroom for bedding materials... Who's there? I did have my gun with me.
Who's there?
Oh, that was clumsy. I dove to the floor behind some kind of a box, a packing case. But all I could hear was the roar of traffic out on the highway. That is, until whoever it was...
So there you are!
But I couldn't see him. Or more important what sort of protection he had. I only knew that if he came around a little more to my left, this packing case would be no protection for me at all.
Hey!
Then nothing. Not another sound. But because he had come around to the side, he obviously knew more about the geography of the store than I did. So unless I got out of there, found some better protection...
All right, mister, you better give up. You hear me? Because I know exactly where you are. You hear me? Stand up with your hands up over your head where I can see you against the light. You hear me, mister? Oh, no, you don't.
To my right, clearly outlined against the sky, was something, another packing case maybe, that was bigger, heavier than the one that now gave me a scant protection. If I could feel my way over to it...
You hear me? You're coming out of there.
You hear those sirens?
Yeah, I hear them.
Well, okay, then.
So I'm pushing this little steel desk in front of me, and I'm coming over there to get you.
I made a dash across the floor, but I forgot about the rotten, burned-out flooring. Oh, no! When I came to, it could only have been seconds later. I found myself lying painfully on the concrete level below the hole in the burned-out flooring above. My gun was gone. And so was everything else that I'd had in my pockets. I tried to get to my feet, but I couldn't quite make it. And it wouldn't have done me any good if I had.
Here he is, right over here. Put your light on him, Mackenzie.
Right you are. There.
Yeah, just to make sure he don't start shooting again.
No, now listen to me.
Yeah.
It was on a cot in a small bare room at police headquarters. It was morning. A patrolman sat with his chair cocked across the narrow doorway. I played possum for a while to get my strength and senses back. But then, a few minutes later, when he saw me move a bit...
Sergeant, looks like he's come to.
Okay, Mackenzie. Fallon just brought in the stuff we missed last night. His gun, the papers that were lying around him. Go take a look at them. Let me know what you find.
Yes, sir, I'll take a look.
All right now, mister. What were you doing out there at the Geary store last night?
Now, listen to me.
A little looting, maybe?
Listen to me, will you?
Sure, I'll listen.
I'm a special investigator.
Oh, sure. Just like all the rest of the crooks we've had to keep chasing away from that place.
No, now listen, Sergeant.
Only investigator we got any use for is that young fella from the insurance company that found the clue last night to pin that arson job on Jerry Springer.
You mean you found out?
Yep. Springer. Professional torchman from up north.
Now, look.
Now, I hate to admit it, but it was this young investigator found it out for us. So what happened? Just when he's about to come in and report to us, you sneak up on him and try to blow his head off.
What's the name of that investigator?
Well, not that it's going to make any difference to you by the time we get through with you, mister, but his name is Johnny Dollar.
Sergeant! Hey, Sergeant!
What's the matter, Mac?
This stuff we missed out there in the dark last night?
Well, what about it?
Somebody pulled them out of this man's pockets.
Pulled what out?
Look here, these credentials. Picture of them and everything.
Huh?
Sure. This man's Johnny Dollar.
Dollar?
That's right.
But that other man, he told us he was Johnny Dollar. We had no reason.
Well, maybe if he took you in, as well as the insurance company.
Mr. Dollar.
Maybe I had better run him down for you. Yeah, and for me, too. Something I'd learned the day before gave me a pretty good idea where I might find my impersonator. But only if I got there fast, about the time the insurance office back in Fort Worth opened up. In the car I'd borrowed from Al Pinker, I made the 34 miles in 34 minutes. The front door of Western Indemnity was locked, but slipping the latch on it turned out to be a cinch. The door of an insurance company yet. I parked myself in the chair of the receptionist who had brushed me off the previous afternoon. And then I noticed the envelope, there on the desk, addressed to Johnny Dollar. Inside of it was a check for expenses on a job that I had never done. I tucked it back into the envelope, and then...
We've been wondering where you were and when you were coming in. Oh, there now. As soon as I turn on the lights, we'll be ready for business. There. You're awfully early, though. Are you going to wait and talk to Mr. Beckham when you... You.
That's right.
Now, you listen here, Mr. Whatever your name is. How did you get in here? And Mr. Beckham isn't here yet, but when he comes in and finds out that you... Oh, here, Mr. Dollar, here's your check.
That's fine, thank you. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Dollar, did you say? Your name is Dollar?
That's right.
Yes, Mr. Whoever you are, this is Johnny Dollar, the famous investigator.
Oh, he is?
And if you think you'll get away with breaking into this office...
Johnny Dollar, huh?
Now, listen, buddy.
You should have taken a better look at me last night.
What?
You mean...
Yeah, I mean...
You mean that you... Carol, thanks for the check. I gotta go.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, don't I?
No, that gun.
That's right. Now, get over there beside him, Carol.
What?
Okay, now listen to me. And don't try any tricks, Dollar.
Dollar?
Are you forgetting the police know who I am now, know who you aren't?
He called you Dollar.
The police? Over there in Dallas?
Do you think they'll waste any time telling the department here in Fort Worth?
By the time those cops get the word, I'll be far, far away. Now,
Will
listen.
somebody please tell me what's going on
You
here?
made a big mistake in leaving my credentials here beside me last night.
So I made a mistake, because the cops were coming. But I'm not making any this time. Now, listen.
Do you mind telling me why you decided to pose as me?
Please, somebody explain.
How long you thought you'd get away with it?
Dollar.
And I suppose you solved a couple of cases for this company, got yourself in good with them, because you planned the crimes, whatever they were.
Okay.
Maybe
Dollar.
even pulled them off yourself.
Okay. You're stalling for time, but it's no good.
And tell me this.
Quiet, both of you. Now, both of you walk into that coat closet there beside you.
You lock us into that stuff?
Now, listen, mister.
Go ahead, or Dollar, so help me, I'll pull this trigger. Go on.
Oh, look.
Yeah, look behind you.
Now, don't try that old gag.
Oh, my goodness, what's going on? What's going on in
This,
here?
Mr. Beckham.
Why, Mr. Dollar, you found him.
Yeah, Mr. Beckham. I found him.
Will somebody please tell me what this is all about?
And the next time somebody barges in and identifies himself as me...
But I tried to tell you, Mr. Dollar. I tried to tell you yesterday.
You tried to tell me what?
Well, I suspected this man from the minute I got his expense account on those jobs he presumably did for us. Why, that was one of the reasons for calling you in Hartford.
What do you mean, Mr. Beckham?
Well, knowing all about you, in spite of never having met you, and then seeing the amount of his expense account.
And it in a pretty heavy one, huh?
Well, that's just the point. No.
What's that?
Well, it was so small. I just knew that he couldn't really be you.
Okay, then, Mr. Beckham. On the strength of that last remark, I will not expect you to question this. Expense account total, including hotel, transportation back to Hartford, and all the incidentals I could possibly cook up, $306.25. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here is our star to tell you about next week's story.
Next week, a fireman. The dangerous kind. That carefully sets fires instead of putting them out. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Bob Reddick is written by Jack Johnstone. Produced by Bruno Zerato Jr. Directed by Ed Oates. Musical supervision by Ethel Huber. Heard in our cast were Ian Martin as Ted Beckham, Phil Sterling as Al Pinker, Lawson Zerby played Pat McCracken. Bill Lipton was the police officer. Rosemary Rice was Carol. Roger DeCoben was the sergeant. Leon Janney was the man. Be sure to join us next week, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This is Art Hanna speaking. times do you drive along the highway at a pretty fast clip and come upon a policeman at the side of the road writing out a ticket for some unfortunate traffic law violator? What happens? Almost automatically, you slow down to a sensible speed and pay more attention to driving safely. Nobody likes to get a traffic summons, but it's only by even stricter law enforcement that we're ever going to cut down on the shocking and shameful death and accident rate on our highways. That's why we should all get behind local and state safety programs and support any measures that will make driving a pleasure instead of a risk. A proper safety program includes not only more rigid enforcement of traffic laws and stiffer penalties for violating them, but also better public education on safer, saner driving habits and the elimination of dangerous stretches of highway. The surest way to cut down on accidents, though, is for all of us, motorists and pedestrians alike, to be more careful and more sensible about how we drive and walk.
There you have it from 63 years ago. One of the few episodes we have of Bob Reddick as yours truly, Johnny Dollar, February 5th, 1961. Tomorrow here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Dangerous Assignment, Under Arrest, The New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Barry Craig Confidential Investigator, Inner Sanctum, 1 out of 7, starring Jack Webb and Lum and Abner. That'll be coming up on our Tuesday program. Have yourself a great Monday, and we will talk to you mañana.